Oh, it's you. Come on in. Welcome to the Scum Bar. Welcome to the Scum Bar Podcast Marvel Movie Marathon, where we go through the 22 films in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, starting with Iron Man donning his first suit and ending with Thanos and the Infinity Gauntlet. We're going to talk Iron Man, Captain America, the Sekovia Accords, and everything in between. I'm your host, Captain Mattbrush, and with me today is the Webhead himself.
Webhead. I am the Webhead. Fear the Webhead.
That's him when he's got a cold. I'm Spab Man. I'm the Webhead.
So if Webhead is a cold, then I'm trying to say Wemhem?
Wemhem?
I'm the Wemhem.
You're the Wemhem.
I'm the Wemhem, because that's Webhead without a cold. Wemhem.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
I'm the Wemhem.
Yeah, Wemhem.
Anyways, I'm Anth0z, not Wemhem. How's it going, everybody?
Hi, Anth0z. Welcome to the Scum Bar Podcast. Anth0z, I would like to warn you, and especially everybody else as well on this podcast, that this is going to contain spoilers for this film and the entire cinematic universe. So if you haven't seen a Marvel movie, then don't listen.
Ever.
Don't even just don't even show your face around here ever again.
Don't.
I don't want to see you.
We don't like it.
I don't want to know you. I don't want to see you. I don't want to hear you. But if you enjoyed this podcast, be sure to leave us a like or a subscribe or a comment or on any of your favorite kind of podcasting platform things, and let us know what you think, because we would love to hear from you.
Yes.
This week for our Marvel movie marathon, we're going to be talking about 2016's Captain America Civil War, starring everyone and their dog except for Thor and the Hulk. Directed by the Russo brothers.
I guess, and also, oh no, but this is starring. I was going to say also not starring anybody from Guardians of the Galaxy, but like that doesn't really matter.
Yeah, that's fine. They have to finish their Guardians Part 2 movie, and then they'll get into their...
okay, right.
Anth0z, without further ado, why don't you go over a brief synopsis of this whole movie? I want to hear your sign-up summary, so you go ahead.
Oh, that was pretty gross, actually. Oh, okay. After another international incident involving the Avengers, world leaders and political powers move to get the Avengers to be registered in lieu of previous missions that have caused collateral damage. This results in the Avengers having to decide whether to remain free or to be registered. It also results in two factions, with one led by Captain America, who believes that heroes should remain free, and the other led by Iron Man, who surprisingly begins supporting government regulation and oversight.
Underline surprisingly.
And all the while, Cap must try and protect his old friend Bucky from both Tony and the schemes of a new villain who emerges with a plan that could shock the world.
Scare quotes villain, I think.
Scarecrow's the villain? Did you say?
No, scare quotes.
Oh, scare quotes.
Yeah, scare quotes for villain, I think, because he's not necessarily a bit semi-villain, maybe.
I've never heard of scare quote. What's a square quote?
When you put quotes around a word, to make it like off the word, quote unquote. So scare quotes are like dangerous individual. So you put dangerous in scare quotes. Dangerous individual.
Oh, I see.
If that makes any sense.
Okay. I think I get it.
Okay.
All right.
So what we do here on the Marvel Cinematic Universe, what are we called? The Marvel Movie Marathon.
Marvel Movie Marathon. No, we are officially
the MCU.
Marvel Cinematic Universe.
We are Captain No. What we like to do on here is like to break the film down into 3 parts. So we're going to break this movie down to 3 acts that we have done ourselves, and we also don't coordinate on this, so we'll just have to hope that they are the same 3 acts. So just before we do that, though, I like to talk about what this movie was like in theaters, or what I felt when I saw this movie in theaters. I don't remember as much other than liking it. I know I liked it a lot. The only thing I really remember about this is I saw this movie on my own the first time. And I really enjoyed it. It was actually, I think, the first movie I ever saw on my own, and it was so good. It was cool. It was one of my favorite movie watching experiences.
That's a good solo movie.
Yeah, it was really good. It was like on opening day or something like that, and it was amazing. And also that I saw this movie 3 times while it was in theaters. I really liked it, and it just worked out that people wanted to go see it. So
nice.
Yeah.
I think this is so. I had never seen. I don't think I've seen any of the Marvel movies in theaters more than once, except for. I might have seen Infinity Gauntlet twice. I think in theaters.
Infinity Gauntlet.
I'm sorry, Infinity War. So I'm just used to the comics.
You saw the Gauntlet? A 2-hour film of the Gauntlet in 3D space as the camera rotates around it.
Yeah, it was in one of those private theaters. So I was sorry, Infinity War, and I think it's called Infinity War, right?
Yeah, you're right.
Can't remember now, Infinity War. So, but the Endgame was the one I saw
prequel.
like 5 times in
Wow.
theaters. and I just enjoyed it so much, and I just had to
To
see
this
it
day, I've still
with
only seen
everybody.
Endgame once in theaters, and that's it.
Ah,
And I don't
what are
even
you doing?
remember
What are
it.
you doing with your life?
I don't even remember the movie. Like, I'm kind of excited because I'm like, what even happens in Endgame? Like,
Oh man, all this time building up to it is gonna be so fun for you.
yeah, I'm getting excited. Like, I'm really getting excited, especially with this movie. I'm getting excited about the whole MCU. This movie just brings me right back into the fray of it all. Like, this is why we do this, you know?
Yeah, and this movie kicks off Phase 3. Like, it's such a strong start, right?
No, and like, we got heavy hitters from here on out. I swear.
Yeah, but in theaters, I think I came out of it confused. Like, I know I really enjoyed it, but then, sorry, not confused. I think ended up having conversations afterwards and people referring to, the Captain America Civil War movie, and I'm like, wait, that was a Captain America movie? Because in my head, I came out of it thinking, that was such a great Avengers movie.
I know, but this movie does Avengers 2 better than Avengers 2. It's kind of funny.
Oh, it totally does. It's almost like a redemption.
It is, yeah. And that's, I don't have like a critique for the film. My only note is that I feel like you could somehow split this movie into an Avengers film instead and take all the Captain America stuff out and make a Captain America movie. But I feel like that would make both of them worse because the movie also does a really good job of blending the two storylines into the same. Like, yes, Civil War is happening because of the Sekovia Accords and this Registration Act, but the Civil War is also happening because of Tony's relationship with Bucky. So it's very interesting how they've blended this Captain America Bucky storyline with this, heroes should be registered and we should have consequences for our actions kind of storyline. So they did a really good job at that to the point where, I don't know, my note is that it's a Captain America movie that's also an Avengers movie and it could be separated, but they did a great job anyway, so I'm not complaining.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not complaining either. And my wife mentioned it last night when we were watching it too, that like it's pretty much, or when it comes to the Captain America movies, he always has to have a lot of other characters or like it's an ensemble movie, and it's because Captain America as the character himself that we know him to be, he's a pretty flat character. Not saying that it's bad, but it's just because we all know that what Captain America is going to do. We know what his mentality is. We know what he what is important to him, what he values, and it's just a matter of seeing what those values are going to end up bringing him do differently. Like something that and in this case it was all of a sudden kind of like accidentally becoming a vigilante or a criminal just because he was trying to do the right thing, morally for his.
But the criminal in the
friend.
eyes of the government, which is, oh man, I have never liked this movie more than I do now. I haven't been as, and I don't mean to say this in the wrong way, I'm not trying to offend any audience members, but I haven't been as patriotic and or political as I have been in life to this point. Like, this is where I've been the most patriotic and political ever in lifetime. And it's hilarious how the arguments that Cap and Iron Man, or Captain America and Iron Man are having.
That's what the movie is, though. It's a Captain Iron Man movie.
Yeah, but their arguments that they're having, it's hilarious that his argument is a very American standpoint. Like, he's arguing for freedom, and he's arguing for non-registration. And I was like, oh my god, like, he's actually making an American argument here. And I can't fault it. That's amazing. Like, Captain America, the guy who stands for America, is actually standing for freedom. I was like, that's amazing. Like, it's just really well written. And then you've got Tony arguing for the government, for government registration, which I don't really get Tony. We'll get into it. I don't really understand Tony a lot in this movie, but it's not done horribly. I'm not trying to complain about the movie at all. It's just some of it doesn't make a lot of sense to me based on Tony's history. I'm not sure why he makes the actions he does other than being afraid, which I can also understand. But anyways,
we'll get into that.
Yeah. So we're going to break it down to 3 acts. Let's get into Act 1. I've named Act 1 The Consequence of Heroism.
Aw. That's not my title. I was reading my opening notes.
What?
I wrote 1991 - some Hydra base, but that's not my. So I wrote Act 1 - who avenges whom? ?
Who watches the Watchmen?
Who clocks them in when they're on the job?
Who watches the clocks in, man?
Yeah.
Okay, we got
isn't there some sort of group called the Clockmen or the Clock?
I think you're right. Yeah,
something.
I'm not super.
The
great
Clockers,
on it,
the Click Clockers, the TikTokers. That's what they are.
There you go.
Yeah,
that's today's generation, the TikTokers.
Who all signed it?
Tony, Rhodey, Vision.
Clint
Said he's retired.
Wanda.
TBD. I'm off to Vienna for the signing of the Accords. There's plenty of room on the jet. Just because it's the path of least resistance doesn't mean it's the wrong path. Staying together is more important than how we stay together.
What are we giving up to do it? Sorry, Nat. I can't sign it.
I know.
Well then, what are you doing here?
I didn't want you to be alone.
Aww.
Although, let me counteract that line immediately with, he wasn't alone, all right?
Yeah.
Fucking with him.
Exactly. I guess maybe she knows, like, she's kind of known him a bit longer.
Yeah.
And they have kind of like not necessarily a deeper relationship, although they might.
Have a history.
But I think, and if anybody's going to talk about being there for somebody else, and I would say Black Widow is the one to do it, because she, at least we find out later on, like how much she really values. No, I think she said it already. Like Shield is what took her in, and she values Shield, like the people in Shield as like her family, right? So
yeah, it's funny how Clint. Oh, there's so many things I could go deep dive into that I'll refrain from doing. But it's funny how the Marvel movies, they talk about Clint being the glue that keeps everyone together in the Avengers. And I feel like he is, actually. I never got that argument ever until this rewatching. And now I feel like he actually does have this weird way of talking to everybody where he does make everyone feel good. And then it's funny how him and Nat are good friends. But also I feel like she's one of the ones who's really got her finger on the pulse when it comes to all the different members of the Avengers. She's able to go up to any of them and talk about something emotional. And they have this connection with her. So Clint and Nat seem to be like the actual lifeblood of the Avengers, which is hilarious.
Well, that, if anything, I feel like it's because they're probably the most grounded, because they're the most
human.
I wanted to say human, but like Iron Man, he's human, right? I think like they're the least supported in terms of like enhanced kind of stuff going on. I think that's the best way to say it, because and not just that, but Clint and Scarlet, I'd say more so Clint though. The way that everybody talks, they talk as if they are always in some sort of like they have some sort of persona that you hear through their voice, right? And for Captain America, he's just like the moral compass, righteous guy. So that's all you hear in all these conversations. Right. With Tony, he's just like playboy, billionaire, philanthropist. Like that's exactly what you hear from him in anything he does. Scarlet always talks in some sort of like code, deeper meaning kind of thing. Like there's always a hidden meaning behind what she's asking and what she's getting out of people. With Clint, I feel like it's just like it's very straightforward. Like this is where I'm at, this is what I'm doing,
exactly.
blah blah blah. Like
it's like in the middle of a fight.
Exactly.
It's like, oh, I love that. No, I know. And
went to play golf, tried to shoot shot 18, couldn't seem to miss. Like it's like this is how he is. But,
and on that note, I guess what else we're trying to say here is the Russo brothers. I know they didn't write this film, but like they directed this film, and I'm getting mad Winter Soldier vibes from it, where every single line in this film is deliberate. It's like every line that anybody says in this film really, if it's not furthering the plot of the movie, then people don't talk. They only
there were a lot of deliberate lines. Yeah, I agree. I especially noticed that for the second. Well, there was a lot of that I find happening during the third act. Yeah, I think second and third act. But
once we start getting multiple characters, every single line is deliberate. And there's even this weird, I don't know what to call it, but like a crossover effect where when they introduce a character that you may not have watched their movie of that character, they do a line from another character sometimes even that is now based in that first character's movie or references that first character's movie in some way, but the line is so thoughtful and deliberate that it like adds this like credibility to if you've seen their film. It's really interesting. But like my example, I guess, is Ant-Man when he meets Captain America, and the Cap says like, if you do this, you're going to be a wanted man. And like he specifically says wanted man based on the Ant-Man movie, right? Because he's a wanted man in that film. But if it was any other character, he wouldn't have said that line. He would have said something else that has to do with their situation from their film, right? So it's like every line is so well thought out to make you follow these characters and what they've been through to get to that point. It's very methodical, and it works really, really well on a subconscious level. But if you break it down, it's right there in front of you. So I like it. Okay, let's get into the movie.
Okay, all right, let's do it.
So the movie starts off with gigantic text in your face, and it does that a lot. It punches you a lot with text. I don't mind it. It's simple, and it tells me everything. I remember every single time this movie starts in 1991. For one, that's my birth year. For two, it just hits me in the face with it. So
so you're prepared. Yep, I had no problems with it.
We see a scene here that we see like 3 times in this film where Bucky shoots somebody on the street. So he assassinates somebody, and we see it multiple times. And it actually grates me a little bit that we see this scene so many times. But I get why they do it. It's just when you watch this movie over and over and over again, you see the scene like 6 times.
Yeah, it's just they're building up the suspense until they finally reveal like the full details of it.
And we don't know what the significance of the scene is at the moment, but we just know that Bucky has shot somebody and he sees some blue liquid inside the back of a car. So it seems kind of interesting. And then blah, 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 we move on to the future. So
yes.
That's we also get to understand that Bucky is controlled by code words, I guess.
So those are like he was conditioned to be brainwashed or whatever.
And one of those code words is homecoming, which
I think
is specifically a nod to Spider-Man. I think I don't see any other reason why that word is there other than, hey, that's going to be the title of one of our next films, and that happened to be Spider-Man. So
yeah, I wrote that note down too. I just figured like that word just stuck out compared to everything else. Yeah.
So we go to Nigeria, present day. We are now looking at the modern day Avengers. I kind of like this. I actually really like the scene again. This is where suddenly you start to see the script just like jump off the screen. Everyone has a line of dialogue here that's pushing the story forward. We're meeting Wanda again. We're meeting Cap's relationship with Wanda. We're meeting Black Widow's relationship with the team as they all kind of say their little quips. You know, Falcon's on the roof. He's scouting things. He's now got this little robot Falcon that's kind of going. What's his name?
Yeah, Red
Wing? Red Hawk?
I think.
I don't remember.
Red ass. Red wall.
Red Rover.
Red rum. All
Red
the
rum.
red
rum. Yeah, so they're all just kind of hanging out and they're watching this one garbage truck. I actually think it's really sweet how like these characters kind of pinpoint that the garbage truck is going to be used as some kind of weapon, but they don't know yet. But then he gets his little Red Wing guy to go under the truck and like scan it. And again, just a lot of thoughtful lines, a lot of thoughtful stuff to make you feel like this team really works well and it's very cohesive. I definitely feel like Cap's in control, but as a good leader, he's actually listening to his team and using that input to then further strategize and see what they should do next.
Yeah, right. He's relying on them and making sure that they, I guess. Well, okay. I was thinking that they are the rookies, as like technically we last saw them being kind of like brought up as the new Avengers, or the new next set of Avengers. And so I was thinking that okay, these are the rookies. Now they're getting a chance to show their stuff. I mean, they've probably done some of the things that just happened before this movie, but yeah, it's kind of like a nice. It's an interesting mission to see, to give them a chance to work together, work with Cap, be led by Cap, and you kind of get a little bit of, we get tech from Falcon, which is almost as if like we don't need Iron Man, to an extent. He's also like in the sky, so he can cover like, he's got vision. And then we've got Scarlet Witch, who on the ground, like she. I mean, we also don't know to full extent what she can do, but we know that she's able to manipulate a lot of stuff, right? So we've got like a big powerhouse, like magical kind of mythical powerhouse, and then we've got Cap, who is just like the brute physical strength, but he's also like a tactician. So it's almost like we have like just between the three of them, we have like a fully equipped team as it is. It's almost like we don't really need it's like it's trying to show like we don't necessarily need all the Avengers for everything. We can just do with just a few of them. But then of course, then we get to the end of the scene where it all kind of goes a little bit wrong, but still, it was it's a fun opening just using these three characters. And
definitely,
I like the layers we get from them.
I get really intense vibes of the freighter scene in Winter Soldier, with Cap going on and clearing out the freighter and working with Black Widow there at the beginning of his
when they're hunting down the pirates.
It's like that, but it's just the French pirates. It's like that, but it's on a much bigger scale, obviously, because it's the new Avengers team. So we get an introduction here to a villain that's big in the comics, which is Crossbones. Now, he's not really in this much. Unfortunately,
poor guy.
I think he would have been a great villain to actually have come into a real Captain America movie, but it's okay. I'm not going to complain. It was good enough. So Crossbones is in there. So him and his team, they kind of use the garbage truck to blow open through into this, it's some kind of Institute of Infectious Diseases, I guess. I had to search that up. I didn't know that's what it was. And they're trying to grab some kind of formula from it, I guess. Very comic book storyline. So the superheroes go in and use their powers to defeat everybody. As you said, we've got Falcon, who's got tech. He's now got... he uses his wings as a shield at one moment, and he shoots like rockets.
Yeah, that was cool.
Rockets up to like shoot the guys behind him with his little tech gear and stuff. That was really sweet. Like some really fun upgrades there. I think the most notable thing that I really enjoyed, and my fiance pointed this out too, was when Scarlet Witch, she picks up Cap and throws Cap, and he goes up
through the window.
That was just such a cool way to like mix powers like that. He's like we practice kind of thing. Like, and it's just like boom, he goes flying through the window. It's just I loved it. It's really really fun stuff.
One thing I wanted to mention, and I think we get this a few times, but I find that the combat with Black Widow in this movie specifically has been stepped up so much compared to the previous movies that like because a lot of the time I find with Black Widow, watching her in the combat sequences, it's kind of like it's almost like what she's doing is very cheeky and like she has the technique for it and she can kind of do what she wants because she has that ability to just like to really take down a lot of guys like pretty easily. And this one I find like the action sequence are just like so much more intense, a lot more fast paced and less about being cheeky, but really just like, okay, what do I need to do to take this guy down, and then the next guy and the next guy. Yes. And I really enjoyed watching her combat sequences in this movie specifically.
There's a scene really that's cool. Less than a minute long, and it's where she's stuck in a tank or a vehicle, and the guy throws a grenade down into the vehicle and closes the hatch and locks her in with two other guys. And it's less than a minute long, and she just grabs one guy, throws him at the grenade, I think, and grabs the other guy and uses him as a human shield. Grenade blows up, and she goes flying out of the vehicle. And it's like, in less than a minute, you've shown us so much about her character. These guys, the Russo brothers, they use combat or they use action sequences to tell the story of the characters, which is what every movie should be doing, but so many movies are just punch, 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 action, 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 and cut really quick, so it looks really cool, Bourne Identity style. But so many movies aren't trying to tell a story while doing that. But with this, they were showing you Black Widow and her fighting style and how she thinks while the fight is going on. It was very, very smart. They did that with everybody, but that was just like less than a minute, and you already understand the character. It's stuff like that I appreciate in this movie so much.
Yeah, me too.
So it all comes down to a halt when eventually we've got Cap and Crossbones fighting. Crossbones then decides to do some kind of suicidal bomb attempt against Cap. Which Cap doesn't see coming because Crossbones talks about his buddy Bucky, which is pretty much
catches him off guard.
Yeah, it's pretty much Captain America's only weakness is talking about his past.
That's his kryptonite. Yeah.
We talk about his history in any way, that's his weakness, and he breaks down. So when he heard Bucky, he froze, and then Crossbones decided to blow himself up. Now, luckily, Scarlet Witch, who's like surprisingly one of the most badass characters in this whole film, is there and is able to contain this bomb. And so she keeps it all controlled in this energy ball. And then in one of the most shocking scenes, I guess, that you're not expecting, she shoots it up in the air, blows up the building, which ends up hurting people. And we have another 9/11 kind of like catastrophe that's out of nowhere. You realize as a viewer, like so many things are happening. Cool fight scene, cool villain. Cap hears about Bucky. You're kind of off. You're kind of like, oh, that's interesting. Then the guy is about to blow up, and you're like, what's going on? Then a bomb goes up, and then suddenly our heroes are sad. So many things happen in like 30 seconds, and you're like, whoa! Like it's pretty crazy. It's pretty shocking. I like it.
I was really taken aback from this. I think I can recall actually being in the theater for this moment and thinking. I think my mind just kept thinking about how she was containing that bomb. So even after she threw him up and then blew up the building, and all the Avengers were trying to figure out like, oh crap, what do we do next? Like we have to get some medical assistance over and fix the situation that we just broke. Yeah. But in my head, I was still so fixated on the fact that she just contained that bomb. I'm like, oh, that's so cool. That's so cool. And then it took me a little, like maybe a few minutes to realize, like, oh, oops, oh, okay, they're on to something, something different now. But watching it around this time, it was, I agree. Like you go through that kind of roller coaster of emotions, like pretty quickly.
Yeah. And again, the movie is using an action set piece to then tell us the story of should heroes be held responsible for their actions, which is the question of this movie, really. And some people would say yes, and some would say no. Like, did they save a bunch of people here? Most likely, yeah. But did they also harm people in the process? Yes. So what was better? And should they be held responsible for that? Yeah. So, really interesting little intro there, and it tells us everything we need to know about them. Now, we cut away to what I like to call, even though it's not really true, but what I like to call the villain storyline to the movie, which is now Tony Stark. Now, he's not actually the villain of the movie, but they treat him like the villain in this film. They give him the screen time of the villain, and that's totally on purpose, I think. In a regular Captain America movie or in a regular, very structured Marvel movie, this would now be when we start showing the villain storyline. This is when it's showing him doing whatever he's doing and learning whatever he's learning to be the villain of the movie. But instead, we're actually showing Tony Stark at an MIT presentation, and he's showing off Barf, the glasses, to a bunch of MIT students, and it's showing the past where he's talking about his parents. So again, now we're building this emotional connection with Tony and his parents and all that, something that's going to be the villain's emotional connection to what happens for the end of the film. So it's pretty interesting. I like the technology they use here for Robert Downey Jr. to make him look young. That's kind of cool.
It's funny that you mentioned that he's he's written in as the villain in the sense like formulaic,
and obviously he's
like structure.
Not, like I'm not calling it the villain.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
He's written formulaically like he is. Yeah.
Yeah, but I because I'm just thinking about how he mentioned how like he's on a break with Pepper because of what happened with the past. What stuff happened? I guess with Ultron and some things before that they decided to take a break or something. And I think, to me, that's almost similar to how you would say that the villain is the villain because they've been wronged in some way, or there is some wrong that is kind of weighing on that villain's shoulders, which is why they start acting out. It's almost like, is this why Tony's... I mean, it could potentially. There's a
I find Tony to be quite whiny in this film. He's got a lot of whiny lines or emotionally or overly emotional lines. But I also think this is Tony probably at his worst. There's probably, like, in his life, there's a lot going on that he doesn't understand. And he just seems to be in a very bad state throughout most of this film. And not until the end does he really come back to the Tony Stark that we know, I think.
Well, I think it's fine for us to see it at this point. It's almost like from Iron Man 1. Like, in a way, he's been... I guess you could say he's been going... Things have been going well for him in terms of his like productivity, but maybe his mentality or just like things that are actually more important in his life. I find like those are the things that have throughout the movies those have been going down, and I feel like maybe when we get to Civil War he's almost at his like rock bottom level.
Well, you know how we mentioned in Avengers 2, he didn't really feel like the Tony from after Iron Man 3? This movie seems to fix that. This does feel like the Tony after Iron Man 3. One is confused, one who removed his suits from himself and doesn't know if he made the right call. That's what it feels like.
Okay, so maybe this is kind of the beginning towards his rise back up, because I'm thinking of his overall, like, his character arc across all the MCU, because he starts in one place with the very first movie in Iron Man, gets to this point where we are in Civil War, and then he's got this climb all the way back to where we get to him in Endgame, where he's because I find, well, we'll talk about him more later, but so then after we get a little bit of the backstory of Tony with the last moments of his parents, then we find out that he goes into the hallway and then meets up with the head of State Department person.
I believe so, yeah.
What's her?
Something like that.
And she also is in the Luke Cage series. So she plays two MCU characters.
Okay. Yeah, I thought I recognized her.
I think I wrote her name down. Alfre Woodard. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. She plays Black Mariah in Luke Cage.
Yeah. Okay.
But so we find out that she, her son was in Sokovia when all that happened, and so guilts Tony into thinking about like all the lives that are lost and who's going to avenge him.
Exactly.
Now. Right,
and Tony really feels this. Again, I find that this is Tony at his most emotionally vulnerable. I don't think it's necessarily fair that Tony should take the blame for it, but at the same time, he did build Ultron. So he's at a part where he's emotionally vulnerable, and this is hitting him hard. And after that hits him, we now have what is the most logical scene afterwards, which is where Tony grabs the General Ross, Thaddeus Ross, I guess is his name, I didn't know that, and brings him to the Avengers HQ to now confront the Avengers to create something for the Sekovia Accords, which is the Hero Registration Act.
This is the first time we've seen him since the Hulk, right?
Yes, he is.
Ross?
This is a deep cut. He's coming back from the Hulk, which is funny because the Hulk's not in this movie. So
yeah, he's in the first. Oh no, that's not the first movie. I was gonna say he's pretty much in the MCU, the beginning, the middle, and the end, because he shows up at the end of Endgame.
Oh, you're right. Yeah. So he is present throughout the whole thing, which is interesting. But I do like his role in this movie. I think he plays it well. They need a villain who's just always angry and always on the quote-unquote evil side. So he's always playing it up. And to the point where it's almost a little bit ludicrous near the end, where he's getting mad at Tony even. But in this scene, he's especially just calling out the heroes for their actions in Sekovia, for their actions in New York, for their actions in wherever we talked about at the beginning of this film, Nigeria.
And Lagos. Nigeria.
So this hits all the heroes pretty hard too, especially Wanda, you can see, who's actually suffering quite a bit from what happened in Nigeria. So I really like this scene. I love how Cap kind of ends it. That's enough. I love that. That's such a good line. And it's good because you as the audience, you agree. It's you think about real life and the kind of events that happen like that, and you understand the emotion behind it. So when the heroes are now using that as their pivoting point to talk about this Hero Registration Act, to some heroes it makes logical sense right away, and to other heroes it's using that as an excuse to use the Hero Registration Act to keep registrational tabs on everybody and use them as a police force. So either way you come into this argument, you're going to agree with one of them, right? But notably, we have our heroes already dividing. We pretty much instantly have Falcon and Rhodey disagreeing,
Yep.
Which is hilarious because they're both military men too, which is really interesting. So they're both military men and they both come on different sides of the argument, showing that people do have completely different opinions on this kind of stuff.
Yeah, they're both pilots, I think, too, right?
I think they are, yeah.
Because, that's what Rhodey is,
Yeah, so it's interesting, and so we move between the whole team being divided. We clearly know that Tony's made up his mind, and Cap calls him out on it. He even says Tony already has made up his mind on this, Because I think it's Black Widow says you're being abnormally quiet, and Cap's because he's already made up his mind, and he knows that. And it's because he can read.
I like how he calls him up, or he mentions that, because, because we're already built to see that they have some sort of, not a rivalry, but they have some sort of deeper connection with each other than they do with a different kind of connection than what they do with what they have with the other characters or with the rest of the Avengers. And I think I wonder if it's because of it's not like a struggle for power kind of thing, but it's just where they are as heroes, where they're kind of the ones who they take the first step, and they, in their own ways, they lead. Whether leaders. It's by example or they lead by or some other way, right? And so that's why they have this connect. They can understand each other. They know each other pretty quickly, but at the same time, that's why it's easy for them to clash, because they're also coming from opposite sides, but still at that kind of leadership role. Yeah. So I do like that he already knows that, because we're just kind of being reminded, like, yeah, this is how tight they are. This is how well they know each other.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I think it comes across in that little meeting there. And that's our first idea that the team is already dividing. It's pretty much the fracture of everything. And even Steve calls it out later that was the start of Civil War right there. Right at that moment when Tony technically already signed. So
yeah,
that happens. And then after that, we now actually cut to the real villain of the movie, which is Helmut Zemo.
Helmut Zemo.
And he's interrogating some ex-colonel guy who was initially going through the whole super soldier serum program to create some other Winter Soldiers. Zemo's actually trying to get more information from this guy about the project. He wants to know about September 2nd, 1991, or whatever it was.
December 16th, 1991.
December 16th.
Mission report.
91.
December 16th, 1991.
91. So he tortures the guy in a really weird way where he just kind of like hangs him upside down and drowns him. But does it not look like he drowns him in like too shallow of water to actually drown him?
Well, I guess they kind of cut away, but it seems like, yeah, like the guy, I feel like he could have moved his head a little bit. Like his nose is under the level of the brim of the lid or the whatever bucket.
Yeah.
But
I'm not sure. All I know is he does this cool thing where he doesn't blink when the water goes above his eyes, which is crazy. He just like keeps his eyes open the whole time.
Oh, I could
he also goes, "Hey, Hydra," and it's kind of nice to hear that again. I missed that line. I miss Doctor. I wish we cut that guy back, but that's okay. Anyway, so yeah, that's really all that scene is. We move on. Peggy Carter at the end of the last scene apparently has passed away, unfortunately, which made Steve leave from the Avengers HQ quite abruptly. Mm-hmm. So we cut to London with, text in our face, and we go to London, and Steve is now attending the funeral, visibly quite upset. He's one of the pallbearers at the funeral. Mm-hmm. We also noticed, we mentioned this earlier, that Falcon is there with him, and he gets to listen to Sharon Carter say a speech about how she's the niece of Peggy Carter, and Steve didn't know this, obviously. This was a shock to me in the theaters, and I remember really liking this, because I was like, finally we can give Steve a love interest that we can all agree with. Like, everybody's like okay with that, like...
Yeah. I find that it's a little bit, I guess it's kind of like a weird redirect to all of a sudden give him, because it does make it seem like she is a potential love interest, but at the same time she's the niece, like it's almost like this is his modern relationship of what would have been when he was, before he was frozen. But at the same time, it's weird because she's related to Peggy Carter. Yeah. So I find it a little bit weird that they chose to have that or show the opportunity of a love interest in this way for somebody who's related to his past love interest.
I think it makes Steve a little bit more real, so I don't mind it at all. But I do understand what you're saying, how it's a little bit weird. It's kind of like Peter Pan coming back and Wendy's all grown up, so then Peter Pan takes Wendy's daughter with him.
Exactly. It's exactly like that.
It's a little reminiscent of that kind of weirdness, which I get. But at the same time, Steve's a human being, and if he's going to be with any woman, I'm so much more happy with him going with somebody who's related to Peggy Carter, so it's the same kind of like connection to the first movie. I guess like allegorically, I like it, but like you're right.
I mean, it's a small thing to complain about, but I know what you mean.
So, anyways, she does her speech. We get the whole scene that we did.
Actually, I want to there's so throughout this movie, I find that there are some really good quotes, and I think that they're meant specifically for Captain America and Iron Man, but I also think that they're very well meant for the audience to try to figure out like which side are you on? Are you on Iron Man's side or Captain America's side? And so I think one of the first quotes we get that I wrote down is from her. Where did I write it down? It is okay. So she's quoting something that Peggy Carter said. She said, "Compromise where you can, where you can't, don't." I think there's a little bit more to before and after, but I find that this is this is one of the quotes that I find references the fact that that captives tried to fight to maintain their freedom because the power that they have is kind of better controlled in their hands than others. And so and actually there's another quote that comes up before this in a previous scene. Vision has a Yoda moment where he says, "Our very strength incites challenge. Challenge incites conflict, and conflict breeds catastrophe."
The dark side.
It's exactly like that. So I find like there are a lot of there are a lot of very, like you said, how did you phrase it? The words that are really meant to be
I said allegorical, but
the way you phrased it earlier. How'd you say it?
I don't remember now.
The very purposeful lines.
Intently written. I don't know.
Maybe. Well, anyway, deliberate. Point is, deliberate. Yeah. So I find that yeah, these are kind of like two of the first I find most impactful deliberate lines.
Yeah.
Because yeah, it's made. I find that they're made for the audience to really think about what the point of the Civil War is and like why do we have these two sides? Why are they so opposing? And what is actually what do you actually do about it? Right?
Yeah.
Because that's kind of what they're trying to figure out. That's what Iron Man and Captain America are trying to figure out. Like, I'd say like they 100% know which way that they would normally go to solve the problems, but I find that in this moment they're not 100% sure that they're actually doing. How should I say this? There's just some sort of uncertainty that is in their actions because they know that there are these consequences that are going to come from whatever it is that they're agreeing to, and so yeah, that's why there's that question like, what is it that you can do? What's the best thing you can do? And then what are you gonna have to do to live with the consequences? So I find that that's kind of like the big overarching theme for this movie is what happens next when you take some sort of action. What are you going to be responsible for?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good call. I didn't actually pick that up, but you're totally right. I never thought about her speech totally tying into the rest of the film, but you're right.
Thanks.
No worries. This next scene, I don't know if this actually happens right here, but it's somewhere around here, and I'll just say it because it happens. It's fairly important. Wanda and Vision. So Wanda's being held at the Avengers HQ, and Vision is kind of her master, like her keeper there. And
I think that's just before the funeral.
Oh, is it? Oh, okay. There you go. That works.
I think
so. There's a scene where we don't actually realize that Vision is guarding her here, and I don't think Wanda totally realizes yet either. And so Vision's trying to be nice to her, so he's making her food. He's trying to make her paprikash, which is he needs paprika. Interestingly enough, for paprikash.
Oh, sorry, no, this is actually a little bit later, and this happens, I think, in my Act 2.
Well, it comes back to this scene, so I don't know. You might be thinking that.
I see. I'm just scrubbing through because I see that after. Yeah.
Oh no, you're right. Okay, actually, yeah, mine is right around here too. Okay,
so
we'll come back to this.
after the funeral, then we go to Vienna.
Yeah, I see that.
Where the UN is meeting to sign the accords.
Okay, we'll come back to that. You're right. So yeah, we're gonna go to the signing of the Accords, which is where we actually meet the Black Panther for the first time ever.
BP, Boston Pizza.
Vienna signing of the Sekovia Accords. Explosion kills King T'Chaka. So we get to see Baba.
Thank you, Baba.
Black Panther, Baba. And what else does he say? Ibambe.
I think later he says it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I like all the lines of the Black Panther in this film. In fact, I'll go as far as to say I think the Black Panther in this film is much better than his own film. Like, I think all of his lines in this movie are fantastic. And I can't remember a line
because
from
I'm so deliberate.
No, maybe we'll watch his movie and I'll think his movie is actually good. But I don't know. I didn't like his movie all that much. But him in this movie, his lines are so great because he has such a purpose. And every single line drives his purpose. It's great. So, yeah. Really, really good.
I think I know what you mean. Yeah. I guess they just wanted to paint enough of a picture for his character so that you could... Because, like, he ends up being in a pretty pivotal fight, right?
Well,
so
he gets his origin movie in this movie. Like, it's really cool.
Actually, that's true. That's a good point. Yeah.
And
he wasn't... Yeah, Black Panther to begin with.
Especially in the scene. We actually only have, like, maybe a minute of dialogue between him and his father, and you get a really good connection between the two of them. And it's really well done, and then his father dies right in front of us, and you instantly feel that. Like, you feel it for him right away. It's pretty intense.
I find I wasn't sure what to make of it, but before King T'Chaka actually goes up to do his speech, he thanks T'Challa by putting his hand on his face.
Yeah.
But he looks kind of somber about something.
Yes.
And it's almost like he is expecting something to happen. I don't know if I'm just reading too much into it, but I find that that interaction was like, oh, there's something I'm not quite sure what to make of. And then shortly after he dies, so it's like it's almost like, are they just trying to like? I wonder if the Russo brothers were trying to just give you some sort of sense of not bewilderment, but some sort of sense of like coming dread.
Well, there is a lot of mystery behind him, so they might have done that deliberately. But he definitely feels mysterious the whole time he's on screen. So so we get the explosion. I don't think anything else happens other than we skipped ahead to Black Widow and him having a conversation outside, and she's pretty much understanding that he now wants revenge on what seems to be Bucky. So the news media is saying that Bucky's the one that created this explosion, Bucky Barnes. And so Wanda is really good at... Sorry, not Wanda. Black Widow is really good at reading people. And she pretty much instantly finds out that he's going to take revenge on Bucky. And she in her own way, she tells him not to do that because the powers that be will do it instead, which is now the new police task head force, which is, I guess Iron Man and his friends.
Yeah.
So then he does that and pretty much buggers off on screen, and we get exactly the same scene, but now Black Widow talking to Captain America, which is hilarious, on the phone. And then Captain America pretty much also says the exact same thing, like, I'm gonna go find Bucky, and then she also in her own way says, please don't do this. Like,
yes, stop making it worse.
It's pretty funny.
Don't
Like, I actually
involved.
feel bad for Black Widow throughout most of this movie because she's trying her best to keep the whole team together, and it's not working because everyone has different motivations.
And they're such like strong motivations
Yes,
too.
yeah. I really like the color coding. This is such a stupid comment here, but I love the color coding between Cap's hat and then Falcon's hat and then Sharon coming on screen. I don't know if you noticed this. Do you know what color Cap's hat is?
Was it blue?
Yeah, he's got a blue hat. Falcon's hat, do you know it?
I wanted to say red, but it must
It
not
is
be
red.
red. Oh, is
And
it?
then Sharon comes in and she's wearing like a white kind of thing. That it's like
Isn't she? Well, she's wearing like her CIA
yes,
outfit,
but
right? So
there's,
she's got
there's
like
a brief moment
vest.
when you do get your white, red, and blue, the Captain America, American flag colors, all kind of like in the screen. And I'm sure they're doing this on purpose. Like, it's very much like, let's grab one color from the flag, the other one, and then the last one, and throw them all on screen for the three characters that are working together to keep Captain America on his mission. I don't know if it's deliberate or not, but it's what I saw when I was watching it. So.
Okay, all right.
So Cap's obviously going to work with Falcon. Falcon's his wingman. He's going to do everything that Cap wants to do anyway. So we ride hard, we die hard. So they go together.
Cap boys for life.
And Sharon is helping them with her CIA capabilities to be able to give him all the knowledge he needs to go find Bucky. And so the hunt is on to go find Bucky Barnes.
Yes, the race to Buck.
I like the scene with Bucky when he's just kind of like hanging out with that dude. I don't even know where they are, actually. I don't know where Bucky's at. Is it in Vienna where he's hiding, or is it somewhere else?
No, because he's in Romania. He's in Bucharest.
Bucharest.
So when we see him, he's like just in the markets buying fruits, and he's just living like a normal person.
Just being a normal guy, and I love that.
Yeah.
We haven't seen Bucky be a normal guy in so long. It's so nice to see him just living life and enjoying it.
Yeah, well, I wish I got some more.
I know,
of that.
it lasts for like 2 seconds. And then he realizes that he's instantly on the run.
Super quick. And then I like how when Cap finds his place first, and then it's Cap kind of wants to get the jump on Bucky in a way. Well, not really, but like he's there to save him, right? But then Bucky ends up showing up behind Cap.
Yeah, I love that.
Because that's just
There's some really good Cap Bucky moments, obviously. Like you have to, but still, they're really well done. But this scene in general is really good. Cap and Bucky start having a conversation in his apartment where pretty much Cap's like, do you remember me? Bucky's like, and Bucky doesn't give him all the information. He pretty much just says, like, I read something about you at a museum.
In the museum,
But
yeah.
Captain America instantly knows he's lying, you know? Steve's just like, I know you're not telling me the truth. I know you know more. While this is happening, Falcon is talking in his ear, giving him directions about what's happening. There's men coming up the building, which is already, like, stress enough. But then Cap's talking with Bucky. So their conversation becomes this, like, three-way conversation where Falcon's also talking, and they're talking and having this conversation. And it's just ramping up with pressure. Eventually it ends up with Falcon saying that he's compromised on the roof. So his position is compromised. And Cap is still trying to convince Bucky, even when, like, the stakes are as high as they can be. Oh, sorry, my work is...
Oh, sounds like you won something.
That's actually the Captain America theme song. But it's...
was it?
My work
it reminded me of when I go to one of the convenience stores and somebody puts in their lotto ticket and it gives that noise like, oh, you've won $5 or something.
Oh, yeah.
It sounded like that. Like, how did you get that ringtone?
Well, give me 2 seconds. I apologize. This is unorthodox, but I'm actually on call for work, and it never happens, but I have to do something really quick. It'll take maybe 3 minutes tops, but I'm going to have to close down our thing, so we'll have to stop recording for a second.
Cool.
Oh, no, we went further than that. I'm sorry. No, we were in Bucky's home. We were having them interrogate. I was talking about Falcon and Bucky, and him were all talking, so we'll go from there.
Right. Okay. Suspense. Yes, that's what you're saying.
Yes. As all this suspense is building up in the conversation, Cap and Bucky are still having their conversations, and I just kind of like how the three of them are working in this movie. And this is almost an unintentional conversation, but the three of them are still having this conversation here. But it's cool. And then it all boils up to the kettle is boiling, and it gets into a cool action sequence. You know, it all ends with Bucky punching what we think is going to be Captain America, but he's actually punching the floorboard to grab his bag to get out of there. I really like that. It's cool.
So one thing that I noticed that I thought was really cool, unless I maybe just didn't watch properly, but I found that this fight all in his apartment and throughout the building was it was less about their fists and more so about just whatever objects happened to be there at the time.
Yes.
Because like the first thing is Bucky pulls up his mattress to like block something. He tosses the grenade
bomb
over.
That comes in. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And like Cap uses the shield, but then even later on when we get through into like in the stairwell, they're just using whatever objects
the stair rail.
Yeah, the rail itself, and
Yeah,
like
Bucky like swings like Spider-Man for a second. That's pretty sweet.
yeah. So what I thought was cool about this is it would, like the fight itself was more about the environment as
true.
opposed to just the actual combat, because
The
we
hits-
already know that Bucky and Cap would just destroy them all hand to hand. So it's a little bit different and maybe more fun and creative to see them in this space. Like what makes the most sense for them to fight them in this scenario, but
Yeah.
also not want to kill them, because Bucky said like I'm not going to kill anybody.
True.
Right. So he had no intention of actually doing that. He just needed to subdue them enough so he could get away. Same thing with Cap. So I think in this scenario, the way that they had that combat sequence, I think was really smart, because we've already seen what they can do with their fists, and so this is a different situation and just more creative. I liked it.
Yeah, and the hits are hard. Like these guys they hit the wall and they go like indented into the wall. It's
Yeah.
crazy. So I really like when they jump from Bucky's apartment down to the rooftop
jeez.
below. It's such a high jump. Like it amazes me every time.
Oh man, seeing Bucky just like hit the ground, roll, grab the bag, and keep going, like no hesitation, like that's so
and
cool.
Cap doing the same thing too. Just jumps
Yeah.
forward. It's like, oh my gosh, it's just
I love
crazy.
it.
And then of course the Black Panther's there too, and it's just like it's a really cool moment. We get into an awesome chase scene. I've talked about it before, but Corridor Crew or Corridor Digital on YouTube, they actually break down a lot of the stuntmen kind of scenes here. So they have that guy Guy who's on, who actually plays the Black Panther. He's the stuntman for the Black Panther.
Oh,
and
cool.
he breaks down that one big leap he does onto the wall and then like slides down the
And
wall
slides.
as he's chasing him.
Yeah.
And Guy breaks down how they did that move and how it that's like that one move right there takes about 3 weeks of practice, and
Oh.
how he's on a wire, but it's not a wire that is it's not a wire to like necessarily create more safety, even though it does create safety. It's just that the wire's letting him free fall still, and then so he's still falling like with most of the actual gravity and weight and all that kind of stuff, and still grabbing onto the wall. He's like pretty much doing everything safely, but if something goes wrong, then the wire's there to help him.
Okay.
So it's pretty crazy. He also mentions how like that leap is like everything beside him to the left is not actually there. Like it's just as it is on the actual set. So if he made the leap wrong, he would have just leapt like right off the building. So he was mentioning how dangerous that really was. And it's just really cool to get his insight. They go into a lot of other stuff with this scene as well. And the next part is the chase in the tunnel. And this is, I won't talk about the stunts too much. I'll let you watch the YouTube video. But it's really interesting to know that the running in the tunnel there is all real running. And there's no CGI. That's actually them running on these road treadmills that they put on the road, and the treadmills make them run really fast. So there's actual cars going around them. All the jumps and everything are all real. Like the Black Panther jumping onto the car and all that. That's all real and actually happening. And the run is all real and happening. And they had to practice. So they were going at, I think it was 50 miles per hour when they were running. So they were trying to, and the cars are going obviously slower than that, but they're actually running through these cars and stuff, which is just crazy. And it's the actual actors sometimes too, which is just nuts. So,
that's
yeah,
cool.
really, really cool. Sebastian Stan and Chris Evans are actual. They do their stunts, and then for the Black Panther, they had this guy Guy doing it. So, yeah.
Okay, cool. I know that Chris Evans doesn't do all of his stunts, but I know he does some of them.
Of course, yeah, they all have their own stunt actors for certain things. But I think it's probably also because Black Panther's in a suit, so they can get away with doing a lot of stunts.
Yeah, a little bit easier.
Yeah. Anyways, just watching the stunts made me appreciate the movie even more, knowing that a lot of it is quite practical. There's a scene after the chase in the underground there, where a car blows up and it's rotating behind the characters as they're on a bike. Bucky's on a bike trying to get away, Black Panther's swatting the bike, and Captain America's flying out and all that kind of stuff, and there's this car rotating as he's running.
Yeah.
That's a real set, and all that's actually happening. So as he's running, there's a real car flipping behind him and stuff.
That's so cool. He runs out of the car that's flipping, isn't it?
True,
Isn't that how it works? It starts.
yeah.
It's just about to start flipping, and just as it does is when he just gets out and starts running at the same speed that the cars are actually faster than the car.
And Bucky's like Matrix bicycle grab. Where he grabs the bike and like flips onto it. That's all real as well. That's real, just done with wires, but it's actually practical, so it's happening.
Oh, that's so cool. This scene was just so well done. That is like such a really fun chase scene for enhanced people.
Yeah, it is. It's so cool. I love how even the lines, again, the dialogue is really helping the scene as well. Captain America is bothered by Black Panther's persistence.
Doesn't know who he is. Why is this
guy? I can't get rid of this guy, and he just knows Black Panther's still there and still persisting. It's just crazy. The amount of things Black Panther does in this movie to still persist onto this vengeance, as he calls it, is just crazy. He's a force that you can't be reckoned with at all. So
yeah, and it's a really cool costume.
True. I like his little claws. They're cool. Shing.
Yeah, shing.
So yeah, cool fight scene. I don't really have anything to complain about. It's awesome. I love it. I'll watch it over and over again.
Yeah, it's a great scene, and that's where I end my Act 1.
Yes, I do too. So they all get captured at the end, taken in, and that's when they're captured. And yeah, Act 1 is done with them captured.
Yeah, congratulations, Cap. You're a criminal.
Yeah, I like that. It seems fast when watching this movie, from there needs to be this kind of hero act thing. If you don't sign this, you're going to be a retired hero, to Rhodey calling Cap a criminal, like actually straight up calling it seems really quick. Like
it's a pretty quick change. Yeah,
suddenly Cap is now an outlaw. But it makes sense. I like it, but it's just quick.
Yeah.
Okay, Act 2. I am calling Catch Bucky if you can.
I called mine Bring 'Em Out because it's about them. Like throughout this scene or this act, they're recruiting their teams. So you're bringing out the ones that you need.
Yep.
And then also I found that they also brought out a whole bunch of cheesy lines.
Okay.
And then there's a lot of just specifically that airport scene. There's a whole bunch of stuff that I find that they just tossed into there, toss in so cheesy lines, just a whole bunch of comedy that just it's in this one sequence and like nowhere else in the movie.
True, it's almost its own unique style in that airport scene.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah, it's a little strange there. I'm not saying it's bad. It's just unique.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, I've run out of patience. Underoos. Nice job, kid.
Thanks. Well, I could have stuck the landing a little better. It's just new suit. Wait, it's nothing, Mr. Stark. It's perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, we don't really need to have this conversation here.
Okay. Captain, big fan. Spider-Man.
Yeah, we'll talk about it later. Just
hey, everyone.
Good job.
Big
fan, Spider-Man. It's like it's very subtle with Tom Holland in this film, but he's really good.
I think it's such a nice reveal to have.
Again,
it's a good scene. I think my only gripe is that I almost wish we didn't see Tom Holland as Peter Parker before this scene.
Oh yeah.
And we just got him as Spider-Man just here, but it probably wouldn't have made as much sense.
Yeah.
For because then flow-wise for the movie, then we would have had to do some other flashback, or we would have had to see some sort of odd scene where Tony is talking to somebody on the phone. And, who's he talking to?
About somebody, yeah.
About exactly. About recruiting him. Who is this person he's recruiting? Yeah. But then I think there's too many uncertainties that way. So, yeah, I guess this is the best route that they could have taken. But I just for a character like Spider-Man, I just feel like it would have been so much more impactful if they could somehow make it that the reveal for him to finally be his first scene in the Avengers or in this movie is already as Spider-Man as that.
I would agree with you
see the web,
if I didn't like the scene with Tony and him so much, but I really like it. And this movie somehow makes Peter Parker in Spider-Man, it does him better than his own film. Again, Homecoming's not a bad film, like Black Panther I think is a bad film, but Homecoming, it's not a bad film, it's just that it doesn't showcase Peter Parker the way this movie does. This movie really shows us a lot about him because it doesn't have enough time to waste. It doesn't have time to waste. So every line of dialogue with Peter tells you more about Peter and about tells you what kind of Peter Parker we're going to get. And then every fight scene tells you what kind of Spider-Man powers this one has. So a lot of people complained for some reason that Peter Parker doesn't have Spidey sense, or Peter Parker is, I don't know, there was a lot of weird things. It didn't show that he was smart or a brainiac and all that kind of stuff. But this movie specifically, before Homecoming at least, tells us all of that. It tells us the Spidey sense many times. He talks about his senses being dialed up to 11, so he mentions it, and he talks about his genius. He nailed his algebra test. He grabs scrap junk and he plays around with it to make it retro graded modern junk and then sells it. And it's okay, so he does all these things. So he's got all these genius things to him. He talks about the carbon fiber wings, so many things about that where it's I don't know, this movie does better at telling us about Peter Parker than Homecoming does. It's really interesting.
And again, I find it's just another aspect of what we got from Black Panther, that they have to show enough of him so that we can get used to what the Spider-Man character is going to be in this movie and how, and then eventually when we see him being involved in the fight, then we've already got a sense. It makes sense because we already know what he's about. So there's less questions, and then I like how he's he's a high school kid, but I find that he's so much more of a younger character than the other Spider-Man characters that we've seen. From Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire. They were also in high school, I'm pretty sure, right? But their characters seem to be a little bit more... They were more mature, even though they still had that Peter Parker cheekiness, which can sort of be misconstrued as immaturity. Yes. But I find that this one he's not so much cheeky as he is just really quirky and immature.
Yeah, he's
a young adolescent.
Apologetically young in this.
Yeah, exactly. It's that kind of innocence kind of aspect.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I guess I understand it better now than even when I first saw it. When I now see it and he's saying lines, I'm I could see myself saying stupid stuff like that if I was his age, Yeah. I get it. It's okay, now I understand. It's well done. Anyways, let's get into the act. So
sure. Yeah.
So it starts off with Bucky being in the Berlin prison here, and we meet I don't actually remember his name, but Martin Freeman's character.
He's Everett Ross. No
Everett
relation
Ross.
to Thaddeus Ross.
Interesting. Okay. I really like Martin Freeman. It's not what I was expecting at all when I heard he was going to be in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but I'm glad he's here. It's just a weird role he plays, and it's fun to watch him play this role.
Yeah, I guess you don't normally get to see him play some sort of like straight edge kind of
like really dominant kind of male character. He's normally like the submissive male character, but it's really fun to watch this.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
So please get out of line. Like I just love how he says that. Kind of stuff. I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
Also,
actually, so just before this is sorry.
I was just gonna say, how many British actors can we have play American roles? It's funny how many of these people, if they spoke like they normally speak, would just be super British.
Oh, like half of them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Before the scene is actually where we have the paprikash.
Oh, right, pepper cache. You're right. Yeah, so I should have put that down here. So in the pepper cache scene, what I really just want to point out here is that Wanda obviously finds out that she's imprisoned, and she realizes this. We also get to understand that Wanda and Vision, even though a romantic relationship does come into play later on with them, in this scene we actually get to understand that the stone that is inside of Vision's head is connected to Wanda's powers in some way, which I never understood until this watching of the film. I don't know why, but I just got that now.
Me too. You know why? It's because the post-credit scene after whichever movie, when we got introduced to Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch for the first time, that scene where we see Strucker and we see Loki's staff with the Mind Stone still in it, I guess intact.
Yeah.
And then we also see Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch. So I didn't realize that they were, I guess, using the power from Loki's staff to enhance them.
Yeah.
So that makes me wonder, like, what could have happened if Quicksilver were still around? Like, what could he have done in some way that would have been connected to the power or to the Mind Stone?
True.
Currently, but guess we'll never know.
I guess so. But I do like that connection, though. I never understood that. It makes me enjoy Wanda and Vision more, knowing that they have this special bond. So I think it's kind of cool. Plus, I really like Wanda. She's a lot of interesting things are happening to me while we go through this rewatching of the MCU. But for one, I didn't like Hawkeye, and now I'm really liking Hawkeye a lot.
You're growing.
Yeah, yeah, I am, and I'm really enjoying Hawkeye's presence every time he's on screen. I'm liking Vision less than I did the other.
Yeah,
times.
me too.
And I'm liking Wanda a lot more. Like out of the female characters, I'm really enjoying Black Widow and Wanda more than I ever did, which is shocking to me. But I'm really liking their characters. Tony, I'm losing respect for. I don't know how, but it's happening. And then Captain stayed the same. But regardless, just Hawkeye's probably the big wild card that I wasn't expecting out of nowhere. I'm just really enjoying Hawkeye.
I think I'm getting the same feelings, and I wonder if this is also deliberate, just in terms of where they want the audience to be focusing on. Probably. In terms of like as we get through the next set of movies and then work towards Endgame, who is it that you want to be comfortable with and relying on, and who do you think has learned enough to be in this position, is worthy enough to do whatever it is that they need? So maybe
Tony has earned the right of loose cannon for now, which is good. I think that they want you to think of Tony as a loose cannon. So okay, so anyways, we're now in the prison here with Berlin. So Bucky is captured. Zemo has some kind of interesting plan where he's got a guy launching a bomb off by accident by a power station that ends up knocking out the grid in Berlin, which also happens to take out the power in this prison. While this is happening,
I think it's a CIA compound.
A CIA compound. Okay, it probably is a compound. Yeah. While this is happening, we realize that Zemo's actually inside the prison, and he's speaking words to Bucky to invigorate his Winter Soldieriness. But actually, just before that, I should point out there's a really good scene with Tony and Steve that I forgot, where Tony's trying to convince him one last time to sign the Heroes Registration Act, the Sokovia Accords thing. And it's interesting. He almost gets Cap. He talks about all this stuff and what they should be doing, and Captain America almost signs the agreement. He comes so close to doing it until Cap says, "What are you doing with Wanda?"
Yeah.
And that's when he finds out that Tony has already taken it upon himself. It's not even necessarily the fact that he's kept Wanda at the headquarters. It's the wording he uses. He says, "Don't worry, she's at headquarters. We're safe," or something like that. I can't remember the exact lines he uses, but it's the wording he uses that sets Cap off, because it's the principle of the matter, not the action. And it's the fact that Tony doesn't understand that what he's doing is taking someone's freedom away. That's what ruins Captain America immediately. And he goes, "Tony, God, I thought you understood." And he instantly puts the pen down, and there's no way he's going to sign this thing again. So he comes close. And I just like that scene in general, because the two of them are so emotionally connected for a bit there. Tony talks about Pepper, and Cap's with him on that, and it's... and Tony's honest about it. He says, like, "I used to hate you so much. I used to want to punch you in your perfect teeth." They say some good lines where only like good friends would be able to say that kind of stuff to each other.
Yeah.
And it's a good scene. I like
it. It really is. And okay, so there's something that happens here. So Tony is explaining to Cap how he's having these issues with Pepper, and he said that he hoped signing the Accords would kind of split the difference between like all the bad that he's been doing.
Creating Ultron.
Creating Ultron, and I think anything else leading up to that as well. So I was curious to know if this meant that Pepper, or trying to make things right with Pepper, is his main motivation for signing, or did he really truly believe in what the Accords are saying? Does he really truly believe that he needs to be put in check by some other authority? Which, like, I can't really believe Iron Man to have that
I don't believe
right?
it either. That doesn't sound like Tony to me.
Yeah, and so then later on, I'll just mention this now because otherwise it's kind of unclear. But later on, when he goes to meet with Captain Bucky in Siberia, he says, don't tell Ross about this, which means he's already working outside of this authority that is supposed to be keeping him in check.
Exactly. Yeah.
So to me, that's like,
that
okay, this is
more the Tony that we understand.
Exactly,
right?
So that's why I kind of find like signing the Accords wasn't actually him agreeing to be put in check,
it's
but
his
really
emotional.
It's his emotional, like attachment to what he thinks he should be doing as a right thing with Pepper. So I find that having that clarity is kind of important, because it's not necessarily that we're having like a clash between Cap and Iron Man over who should be authoritative or who should be the authority over them, who should be keeping them in check, but they're clashing because of what's important to them.
Yes.
And I think that difference is pretty important, because what's important to Tony is not about having people in check, right? And so that's why I just find like that clarity is really important or the distinction between what it is that they're clashing about, in my opinion, is is why we can end up having such an emotional like dysfunctional fight between them and at the end of the movie, because there's something important to them that's actually on the line, as opposed to just like, oh, politics,
True.
Yeah.
And actually, based on their personalities too, it seems like Tony is the one that creates. He almost like creates, invents, and like tries new things, thinking outside the box. Like personality-wise, throughout all the movies, it seems like Tony's always doing those things. While Captain America is more like stabilizing. He's more like he stabilizes. He toes the line. He's there to be like the brute force of whatever is right and just, but not based on what it is based on what he thinks is right and just, but he's always like performing based on the orders of what is right and just, while Tony is like trying to define new laws of what is right and just, or Tony's trying to like create new things. I don't mean to say so much of like, conservative and liberal here, but it is almost like that in a political sense, because Tony does create Ultron. He's trying to try new things, and you can't fault him for it. He's trying to do new things to make a better world for everyone, and he's always doing it from a place of goodness to try to make it better. But Captain America is not the kind of person who's going to invent something new to try to make the world better for everybody. He would see the world for what it is, as good, and try to maintain that goodness about the world. So that's like the differences in their personalities, which is why they seem to come off on two totally different things. Tony's coming from a place of remorse based on his past, and Captain America is coming from a place of, based on his past, he doesn't want it to get worse. He's seen a country fall under a totalitarian government, and he fought for it, for the freedom of those people. So it's funny how they're both altered by their history like that. Yeah.
I think that distinction is also, it supports just the notion of what it is that they're fighting for, and exactly. Like their past is really what has brought them to this point, so that's what they value.
And so that's why Tony's not a villain. He's definitely not a bad guy in any way. He's the antagonist, I think, to this movie, but he's not a bad guy. And like, he's an antagonist we totally understand. And he's more real than Cap is. As much as I like Cap better, Tony's much more real.
Tony's the pro-antagonist.
Yeah, you're right. Protagonist. So back to Zemo. Zemo saying these code words to Bucky. And then Bucky awakes from his prison, breaks down the door, and Zemo sends him off on his, Winter Soldiery way. So while this happens, I think I used that twice, didn't I?
Yeah, something like that,
Then we get a Steve chasing down Bucky scene. I'm trying to remember. All I can remember is the helicopter and Bucky escaping the helicopter. But what happened before that?
So Bucky's trying to get out. In the meantime, he takes out Falcon. Kind of slips away from Cap a little bit, and then encounters. I think he's fighting some
Bucky
CIA people.
Everyone.
Yeah, pretty much everybody. So he has to like really like bust through. So he gets caught by some CIA guards or what CIA people, and then he ends up fighting Sharon, Black Widow, and Black Panther,
and then Tony.
And Tony as well, yeah. So in this movie now we get a little bit of a semi-new transformation where he's got his little like finger thing that turns into just like a glove.
Yeah, it's only a glove, it seems. That seems to be all it is.
Yeah, so maybe this is supposed to be showing like prototypes into, because it's a very small. He doesn't have nanotech yet, does he?
No, I don't believe he's got nanotech yet.
Okay, because I wonder if it's supposed to be meant to be, like stepping stones towards when he eventually has his nanotech stuff, which he has by Infinity War, I believe. But Yeah, so we have that semi-transformation. And so again, the combat scenes where we have here, I find are really cool. And again, with Black Widow. And the trade-offs, too. So we get kind of like a trade-off between Sharon and Black Widow kind of going in, taking on Bucky, and then eventually we have Black Panther comes in. So then eventually Bucky gets onto the helipad, and that's when Steve has finally kind of like gotten through or gotten back out of the elevator. Yeah. So he had to climb out of the elevator shaft or something to get there, and then he holds onto the helicopter. I'm pretty sure
the most heroic scene ever.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure The Rock had a very similar scene, did he not, in one of the Fast and Furious movies?
Oh, probably.
Where he's holding onto a helicopter?
He's grabbing this helicopter in a way that makes sense, I guess, so that he's holding himself to the building and holding the helicopter, but it's also in a way to just show off as many muscles as possible.
Yeah.
But it looks so cool when he does it. And I love how it's an action piece that's telling the story. It is Steve's friend literally pulling away from him, and him trying to hold him and keep him together, like trying to keep their relationship.
Yeah.
And it's great because it's literally a power of strength. I think all of us love watching a power of strength battle that happens that's also symbolic to emotion. It's always fun. This is why Dragon Ball Z sells. But it's in the most Dragon Ball Z moment ever. He pulls in the helicopter and he wins the battle. But what's really cool here is the helicopter falls. And he goes with Bucky down into the ocean, and here he is now saving his friend from the river, which is the reverse of what Bucky did for him at the end of Winter Soldier. So it's the redemption on that, and now he's the one who's trying to save Bucky and bring him back from that. So it's kind of interesting. I like that.
And then we jump into the scene, which was the post-credit scene that we mentioned
Ant-Man.
a few episodes. Yeah. Oh, last episode? Oh, that was.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Ah, right.
So then in this scene here, we've got Falcon and Cap trying to recover Bucky's memories. Bucky starts to go off into this whole thing about how there is this colonel who is using the serum, the super soldier serum, to be able to create more Winter Soldiers. And it seems like these other Winter Soldiers are quite strong, and they were able to, take over Bucky. If there was more of them, they're stronger than him. So he escaped with his life. So we know that there's 5 villains now. This is kind of a setup to a false villain that never actually happens. But I like it because you think it's going to be this kind of annoying villain you don't really care about, but it ends up turning out that was a misdirection. So.
Yeah, well, I think it's just a kind of a cool development because what else do you expect? Like Captain America was one of many trials of the superhero serum, so why wouldn't there be the same thing with Winter Soldier? And they're kind of showing that kind of mirror, the opposites, or whatever you'd call it. Like this is just like on the Hydra side. It was Hydra, right?
Yeah, it's on Hydra.
Yeah, it is Hydra. Yeah, so this is what Hydra is doing with what they can do with superhero or superhero serum, super serum.
Super Soldier Serum.
Super Soldier Serum.
Super.
The Triple S. I wanted to mention, I'm pretty sure one of the guys, one of the other wintry soldiers was the actor for Liu Kang in Mortal Kombat. It was just kind of like a random thing. Like, oh, that's cool.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Liu Kang is now Winter Soldier.
So that's kind of now we know there's a threat. There's a threat to something, and we feel like this Baron von Zemo guy. No, sorry, Helmut
Zemo, yeah.
is trying to head to this...
Baron von Strucker, I think is what you're talking about.
Yeah, I was thinking that. Is heading to this facility to go and reinvigorate these super soldiers.
Yeah.
So that is now our plot. That is where we're going. Now these characters are together and they want to get there and they want to, make sure that he doesn't make it there in time. So...
Can I just mention, so like I just found this such a weird thing, but the minute that, so the first hero, or the first super soldier that was able to actually take out Bucky, like kick him away and stuff, he's just standing there and he's all riled up, and then the scientist goes to like put a needle in his arm and he just goes crazy, knocks him out, and then one of the security guys comes and like tries to beat him with a club or something or a bat, and like, what are you thinking? Like, you just saw what he did to Bucky.
And also,
what do you think you could be doing?
More equipped? I feel like they should be well prepared for whatever happens. They're creating super soldiers, so
something is so weird and naive there. But anyway,
where's their magic words? Why don't they have magic words to chant at them to keep them in control?
Pineapple, plexiglass,
lemon tart,
baking soda, chrysanthemum.
Not chrysanthemum, no. So anyways, after that, we're back at the Avengers HQ, I believe. And we've got Wanda and Vision watching an explosion happen out their window. Is that the scene? I think it is.
Not quite. So just after, we get back to... So yeah, I think we're at wherever General Ross is. Or not, he's a lieutenant. No, what is he? Secretary, head of state, whatever. So they talk to him briefly. And I think he says, I think Ross is trying to get.
Oh, he's trying to convince Tony to bring him in. Sorry, I've got these mixed up then. Yep.
Yeah, and then just after that we go over
36 hours
to
get Cap. Yeah.
Yeah, and then we go over to Queens, and we get to meet young Aunt May.
Yeah. So pretty much Widow sets him up and says, "Who are you thinking? I know a guy." Bam, 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 bam.
Is that the song that actually plays?
Yeah, I think so. I don't remember, to be honest. So then we get this awesome scene. We've already broken down most of the scene. I don't have much more to say about it other than I like the memes that came out of the whole, "That's you, right?" It's like, wow, 400 pounds or whatever. Nice catch. Like, so many memes came out of that little, like,
really? I didn't see any.
Oh, there's a whole bunch where they changed the video feed that he's got coming out of his iPhone. It's really funny.
Oh, I gotta look that up.
Yeah, there's a lot of them. That's all I think about when I see that scene now. Wow, 400 pounds. Nice catch. But the best version is, "That's you, right?" They'll show some like crazy YouTube video or something in that.
Cool.
"That's you, right?"
Oh, I'm looking forward to looking that up.
So good.
Nice.
Anyways, I like the suit. I like things like him making fun of the suit, where he's just like, "What are these goggles? Like, why do you have goggles?"
Yeah.
But again, every line is deliberate to make Peter. So you can understand Peter's powers. There's one line here that Peter says that is specifically said for Iron Man and Cap's story, like you mentioned earlier. There's a quote that Peter has here that is specifically for the point of this movie.
Yeah, that's right.
For Peter. Yeah, and it's, I can't remember the exact line. Do you have it written down?
Yeah. Okay. Look, when you can do the things that I can, but you don't, and then the bad things happen, they happen because of you.
Yeah. And what's great is that does work for Peter, but it's much more of a line for this movie.
Oh, yeah.
Now, what's funny is I always like the line where he says, "I'm looking out for the little guy." I always liked that line a lot because that sounds like a Peter Parker quote to me. But what's weird is when I watched the movie recently, I realized that, did Tony redirect? Because it sounded like when he said that line, Tony redirects what he's saying because it hits him too emotionally. So it sounds like he goes, "Okay, so whatever, you're trying to do the right thing, you're trying to do the thing for the little guy, you want to make the world a better place, right?" And then he kind of like, then I realized that Peter Parker's line is almost like a acceptance of that weird redirect. Because he kind of then just goes, yeah, looking out for the little guy. And I realized, I was like, wait, do I have this whole thing wrong now? Like, I always thought he was saying that, yes, he was looking out for the little guy, but now I'm reading it as in Tony almost, like, deflected because, like, Peter just, like, struck to the heart of this issue, and then Peter, like, agreed with his deflection. It was really weird.
Oh, so this is an interaction in the Homecoming movie?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. This is all in the scene.
Oh, I see.
Right after Peter says that line, Tony is obviously emotional from that line. He then, like, he understands that it has to do with his own thing, his own life. And so to me, it sounds like he deflects after that, and he instantly goes, okay, so you're just looking out for the little guy, you want to just do the right thing. But the way he says it is as if he's trying to sound like noble, like what you would say at a pageant contest or something like that, just like, you want world peace or something, like he's throwing it away, just saying a deflection line instead.
Oh, okay.
Maybe I'm reading into this too much. I don't want to be like overanalyzing it, but that's just I almost saw it in a different light this time than I did before.
Yeah, he looks a little bit somber as he says it too, right?
Yeah.
Like he's it's like almost like he's unsure about what he's really doing with his powers, and yeah, but okay, I know what you're referring to.
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm just watching the scene right now, and yeah, Tony just it can be taken a few different ways, but I do like the line where Peter says yes that he's looking out for the little guy, and it does look like he agrees with that line as he's saying it. But I don't know, Tony almost just kind of looks like he's deflecting when he says that, so it's hard to know what that whole thing is about. But,
so then I guess just to end off the scene, he just before he is about to go tell Aunt May, and then he just like whips out his webs and just shoots his hand so that it's like stuck to the knob. Something about that scene, I was like, oh, I really like that, and the web looks really cool.
It does.
I don't know.
Although,
why.
did he had a web slinger on him, even though he was changing out a cartridge or something earlier? Like I wasn't really too sure about that, but I guess he had one on him as well.
He probably just always has them under his sweater at all times.
Yeah.
Who knows? Just to be prepared.
I do like that Aunt May is now Marissa Tomei in this. I think it's funny to see a different kind of Aunt May.
What an interesting take on an Aunt May, right?
Yeah, I know. I remember not liking it. I remember the first time watching this, I didn't like it because I was used to like your old grandma kind of Aunt May.
Like where's the gray hair?
You can't deny she's fun to watch. I like Marissa Tomei. She's a hilarious actress, and she looks good. And what actually makes it even better is Robert Downey Jr. and her actually have a history from films together. So it actually makes I can't remember, there was like a romantic comedy from the past that they were in. So it actually makes the two of them have this like funny connection. And then Tony with his just subtle lines with it is just hilarious.
Right.
So I love like as far as almond date loaves go, it's not bad.
Yeah, as he spits it out. Yeah.
I don't know why that line's so good.
And then so the next scene is then we go back to where Black Widow, where Scarlet Witch was being held by
WandaVision.
Yes, WandaVision. I was gonna say earlier, like, oh, we got our first WandaVision scene
Pretty much
when they were making the pepper cache.
Paprika.
And then so we're back to the WandaVision.
Yep.
With a cameo from Hawkeye, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Hawkeye's back.
And he's just going hard, like right away, no hesitation.
Immediately funny. He's immediately great and funny. He walks into the scene just making a joke. Like, he's awesome right away.
Yeah.
I love how he's just, as he's talking, he's like, okay, we gotta go. He's just like shooting like arrows and like getting everything all set up for this plan. He pretty much knows what's going on right from the jump. It's awesome. I love how he gets the jump on Vision. Like Vision didn't even see that coming. That was great. And then how he fights Vision, but knowing people better than Vision does, right? Like, Vision's like, why are you fighting? Like, there's no point in fighting me. I can oust you, kind of thing. But then he's like, I can't do anything to you, but she can. Like, it's just because he can read everybody a lot better. And Vision's a computer. He can't read emotions all that well.
Yeah. And I was actually thinking about this now that he's kind of like, I almost want to say that in this scene, he's like the culmination of S.H.I.E.L.D. So... Yeah, in the Captain America movies previous to this, like, we had S.H.I.E.L.D. was a big part of it. They're barely in this at all, they're not in it at all.
They're not really a thing anymore.
But when we first saw Hawkeye, he was working with S.H.I.E.L.D. And so that should lead us to believe that he's got a lot of, I'd say, like, a lot of knowledge that he's gained from being with S.H.I.E.L.D., a lot of training that probably took place with him within S.H.I.E.L.D. And I think for his ability to understand the situation and the way to make the best out of it, because I find that was a really big thing with Nick Fury, with Coulson, probably with Maria Hill, but I can't really think of any situations. But at least with Coulson and Nick Fury, I find them to be pretty much like the figureheads of S.H.I.E.L.D., like when you think of them in the MCU. Yeah. So now without them, then we've got Hawkeye, who I find, in this situation, he was so prepared for just literally everything. He was prepared to even be caught off guard by Vision because he knew what other resources he had, which was within Wanda. So again, like, just referring to how Bart is this person that kind of ties everybody together or can keep everybody together. I think it's because he just understands. He can read every situation just so well. So that's why he's able to fit in so well.
He's perceptive, but of course he is.
Of course he's the Hawkeye. He's the Hawk.
Jeez, yeah, man, that's well put.
We're just really figuring out this movie.
Yeah, I'm just learning things today. But no, I like him in the scene. I think it's great, and I do just like how the scene goes. And we end up with Wanda just flexing her Wanda powers by just taking Wisdom by the stones and just dropping him through like a bunch of floors. It's pretty insane. Pretty cool though, but pretty intense. Okay, so moving on down the line then. So we go from that on to, I believe this is where Cap, Bucky, and Falcon are incognito in their little beetle, and they meet up with Sharon.
Yeah, to get some info.
So Sharon has stolen some stuff from the CIA, just some small things, Captain America's shield and Falcon's wings.
Yeah.
Not Bucky's arm, though. He actually escaped with that arm, so that was good. Would have been kind of funny, though.
Yeah.
Anyways, I do love them in the bug. It's just hilarious seeing these three giant guys just sitting in this tiny little beetle.
Their banter is just too funny, I find, too.
Yeah.
How does it start? I think Bucky's just like, can you move up?
Can you move up?
And then he said, no.
No.
And then he just slowly slides over to the middle seat, gets a better view. And then afterwards, after Sharon and Cap kiss, looks back at the car, and they're both smiling and nodding. Oh man, this is
you can make like a great
scene.
GIF out of that. That's just hilarious. Captain smiles, looks over, smiling. They're smiling back at him, and then he instantly goes like, "Come on."
Yeah, and I really hope that's kind of like a teaser of what to expect with Winter Soldier and Falcon TV show.
You know what's funny? When that moment happened, I turned to my fiance and I said, "More of this, please." I was like, what happened to this? This was like the best part of this movie almost. It's like these three, right? And then it did click at that moment. I went, oh, I forgot. They're actually going to have their own TV show. Yeah. I was like, oh, man. And I instantly got excited. I was like, oh, that's actually going to be great.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it's going to be like this because this scene is kind of more so out of like their reluctancy to be together. True. But I'm sure we'll find some things I think
it's going to be like a nice buddy cop movie. I think it's going to be a lot of them just like bantering with each other, kind of like grinding each other's gears a bit. I think it'll be fun to watch.
I think it would just be funny to watch them as a good cop, bad cop, like
exactly.
Without Bucky's arm and without Falcon's without his wings. If they were straight up just normal people, but still good cop, bad cop, but as they're with their personas, I think it would be kind of funny.
Yeah.
And then so after that, then we head off to meet
the
up
airport.
Yeah, just at the airport. Are they actually at the airport?
Yeah, they're at the car park, or the carport or whatever, just outside of the airport.
Okay.
And we got the buggy pull up. We also have the minivan pull up. And this is where we get the meeting of Ant-Man and Captain America.
Thanks for thanking of me.
Yeah. This is pretty much where Paul Rudd meets the Avengers.
Yeah.
Wow, Captain America.
Wow, this is awesome. Oh,
Yeah.
and you. I know you. You're great.
Yeah, you're great. I'm shaking
man.
your hand too much. Just very much all Paul Rudd-isms.
Yeah.
But again, as much as I don't really like those lines all that much, I love the line, like I said earlier, where Captain America says, you'll be a wanted man. And he says, yeah, well, what else is new? Great. 2 lines there that instantly harken back to Ant-Man. If you never saw Ant-Man, you now get Ant-Man. But if you have seen Ant-Man, you go, oh yeah, that makes sense. So, well done. And Psycho Assassins. That's why they're there.
Psycho Assassins.
So then they move on to the airport to then go and get to the Quinjet.
Yeah.
So while they're going off to the airport, we get... I broke this down to 3 phases into the brawl.
Oh,
So
nice.
the airport, I said, airport brawl phase 1,
Okay.
which is the conversation. So we get this whole conversation at the beginning here. This is where Tony's trying to convince Cap to stand down. So it's actually just Captain America on his own talking to Tony, talking to Black Widow, and talking to Black Panther. Or no, actually, I'm sorry. It might be Tony, Rhodey, and Black Panther.
Tony, it's Tony and Rhodey.
And so Tony's kind of just, cracks a couple jokes. Oh, it's funny seeing people at the airport, or whatever. Isn't that weird? Yeah, it's weird. And then Black Panther comes out of nowhere. He goes, Captain. And he goes, Your Highness. So I call this
exactly
the talking
like
scene because this is Tony's last, just come with me. We've got 36 hours. If you don't come with us now, you're going to see worse than your friends. You're going to see, the actual forces of the government trying to force you back to home where we need Bucky. Obviously, Cap says no, but when he says no, this is when we get the underoos in the scene we talked about, and Tony pulls out his special weapon, which is caught off guard. Spider-Man comes out and grabs his shield. I'm assuming Iron Man just wanted Spider-Man there because he can web up guys, I guess. That seems to be the plan, is just web up everybody. So I'm assuming maybe Tony was like, hey, a webhead would be great, I guess.
A Wemhem. Well, I think it's also, he did mention earlier, he was able to withstand, the 300, 400-pound car, the force of that car, right? So
Right.
I think just knowing that he was also, a super strong guy or person, that, he could hold his own, so hoping that he could at least help to turn the tides.
Yeah.
Because I assume Tony would have known just how, it's an even 6 versus 6 in this standoff, but without Tony knowing about Ant-Man, it would have been 6 versus 5, so he, the one-man advantage, and I think probably would have helped the situation, or, was the intention, right? But
Definitely.
yeah.
But Tony, you're right, he underestimated Captain America, and there was an Ant-Man on a shield. And,
They each brought aboard some sort of bug.
Yes, you're right. I'll admit, I think it's weird that Peter doesn't have the Spidey sense to understand that Ant-Man is going to hit him in the face and steal the shield. But I like the scene, so I'm not going to complain.
Right.
I think it's pretty fun. Seeing Ant-Man on the top of Captain America's shield, I just love that scene. It's really funny. It's really cool how Ant-Man gives us a perspective of props in a unique way, where we get to see props super high def and close up, and a really you want to see the definition of Cap's shield, well, you get to see it. In
that's a
Ant-Man's
good point.
perspective.
Yeah.
Anyways, I love how you go, your shield, Captain America.
Yeah.
Hands it back to him. Oh, that's great. So we get a really quick scene here where it kind of goes into what I call the chase. It's still phase 1 of the fight, and it goes into the chase. So in the chase here, you got Black Panther trying to chase after Bucky. Who's running off with Falcon. But Captain America stops him, and there's a bit of a brawl between Captain America and, Black Panther. While that's happening, you've got Spider-Man going off to go and fight with Bucky and Falcon. And this is where you get a lot of your Spider-Man isms we mentioned before, a lot of the cool moments here. But you probably call them cheesy lines, because they are kind of cheesy.
In a way.
But there's some cool moments, too. Oh,
you have a metal arm? That's so cool!
Yeah, exactly. Actually, that's a great moment, because it shows Peter's strength. Bucky really kind of gets owned in these first couple battles.
They both do.
True, but, because... Spider-Man just kind of grabs his arm and is able to just pull it back. Well, later on, the Black Panther actually grabs Bucky's arm and also pulls it back. So there's 2 characters there where instantly Bucky's like, I'm outmatched.
Yeah. I think it's just really cool that Spider-Man just on his own was able to take on both Falcon and Bucky.
And it was he's new. He's young.
He's new. Yeah, you could say, Falcon and Bucky haven't worked together, so, the synergy isn't there. But at the same time, they're both, in a way, professional at what they do. They've had, structured training. And they should be able to kind of read the situation to an extent, but no, Spider-Man was enough just to take on to the 2 of them, which I think that's really going to show just how amazing Spider-Man is.
Yeah. We get some great moments where Ant-Man is fighting Black Widow. Oh my god! And I love when he's dragging her arm. He's just this little guy grabbing her arm around behind her back, but then she just shoots her little wrist rocket thing and just shoots him out.
Zaps him. Yeah.
Yeah. While that's happening, you've got I think it's Clint is running off with Scarlet Witch, and you've got War Machine like shooting down at them too. So they're kind of running away, I think, trying to get to the Quinjet while he's shooting down at them, and there's rockets going. And again, so Spider-Man webs up the other two, and it's just the chase at this moment.
Mm-hmm.
Well, while this is all happening, you've got some cool lines like you mentioned earlier, where or I don't know actually who said this one, but Hawkeye says like "I never miss" or whatever. He's like, the golf game or whatever. Like they're in the middle of a fight scene, and then Tony's just like, "Clint, how you doing?" Just like, I thought you were retired. And then he talks about golf and does that joke, and then he says, "I never miss," shoots the arrow.
Which can't seem to miss.
Yeah, and then Tony's like, "Well, it's first time for everything," but Wanda's throwing cars at his face. It's crazy. Wanda's like a badass in these scenes. She doesn't pull her punches at all. Like she says later, like she ends up just like always trying to kill.
Yeah. Well, if anything, because she was the most feared. She had the most fear. Right, yes, because of what she did, and she was worried so much about what was going to happen to her because of her actions. So, and then she kind of came to terms with it before she was able to break free from Vision, that she can't control everybody else's fear, but she can control her own. So I think that was kind of the breaking point for her to kind of just rise above, like, okay, there's something that I really have to be doing in this situation, and I'm not going to hold back, because if I do and I start questioning, then I'm just kind of right back to where I started.
Right.
Yeah.
So all of these kind of like mini fight scenes, they all culminate and eventually both hero sides going onto each other's line of division. So Cap ends up running towards the Quinjet because it was found by Hawkeye, I believe, and Scarlet Witch. I believe they found the Quinjet in a hangar.
Yeah.
So they found it, and then Cap's running for it. So as he's running for it, they all kind of meet up as one cohesive unit. As that happens, Vision comes in and shoots a line down that kind of keeps them there on their side. And then there's this little division between the two different sides. And this is what I call Phase 2, which is the airport brawl Phase 2, line up and run at each other.
The face-off. Yes.
Yeah. This is where you get like the really cool... it's a weird theme song. It's not the Avengers theme song, but it's like this dee do 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 dee do do do,
right,
and just keeps doing that over. It's this weird swell, and just keeps doing it over and over and over again. It builds the stakes really well. So I like that song, but it's only in this movie, I think.
I'm just picturing if Hulk and Thor were in this scene.
Oh, I know.
And on
they would have to fight
sides.
Each other, right?
They would have to. Yeah, there's no way that anybody else. I mean, like, technically, Spider-Man would. I mean, like, it's hard to say, like, Spider-Man and Captain America. No, I know, not just, like, I'm just thinking, like, in terms of, because we had a lot of 2v1s beforehand, right? Like, it would have to be some form of 2v1 where there's, like, kind of like a distraction, and one has the actual, like, power of the fight. But, yeah, like, it would be impossible to really make this work properly with those two powerhouses. It just wouldn't make sense.
Definitely. Yeah. I did forget to mention, they don't shy away from the Ant-Man isms, too. He throws one of those, like, gigantic things. He throws a tiny, what he thinks is a water truck at somebody, and then like Captain America throws the little disc to make it big, but it turns out it's a fire truck. Yeah.
Or a truck on fire. I don't know if it's a fire truck, but
or just a truck that blows up, I guess. Right.
Yeah. I thought it was a water truck.
So they line up, and then they launch at each other, and you get the big Civil War clash moment where everybody starts fighting. You get the awesome Iron Man slamming down to Captain America's shield, and the flying people come up and fly into each other and all that. And we get our team offs where we were mentioning that, where everybody starts fighting each other one-on-one, but starting to use their powers together. Yeah, we get the moment with Black Panther fighting Winter Soldier. Like I said, he's ended up fighting Winter Soldier, but he can actually overpower him with his arm. So we see that Black Panther is stronger than Winter Soldier in that sense. We also get a funny moment between Hawkeye and Black Widow where they're fighting, but then they kind of realize, like, we're still friends, right?
We're still
like,
friends, right?
Yeah. As long as they don't kill me. But that's actually when Scarlet Witch, just whips Black Widow.
You're pulling your punches.
Yeah. So good. It's kind of funny because he's the one who told her to get off her ass, right? And then now she's telling him to work harder. So.
Yeah, true. Well, exactly. Yeah, she's in it to win it now. From 0 to 100.
It's beyond the point of no return. So with these matchups, we get my favorite matchup, which is Spider-Man versus Captain America.
What a cool fight.
Just such a good moment. So Spider-Man and Cap start fighting each other. You get the awesome Cap throws his shield, cuts Spider-Man's web. That's already cool enough. Spider-Man making fun of his shield, saying it doesn't obey the laws of physics.
Good call out. Somebody had to.
I know, which is great. But I love the moment where Spider-Man just goes for the shield and goes for the legs, trips him, and then punches him in the face. Cap actually gets rocked. Like, he falls back, he loses his shield. He gets totally rocked there, which is amazing.
Yeah.
But when Spider-Man tries to do it again, and this shows how awesome Captain America is, when he tries to do it again, Captain America instantly uses it to his advantage to pull Spider-Man towards him and then kick him in
Can't do the same trick twice.
Oh, yeah. I love it. It shows the ingenuity of both characters. The culmination of that scene ends up where Cap ends up knocking down the airport kind of tunnel thing.
Like that bridge, yeah.
Yeah, the bridge thing down onto Spider-Man, which is great because Spider-Man's most notorious scenes are when he's doing a power strength kind of move, where it's like his test of strength. So instantly Cap puts him in that situation. He's stuck in his test of strength. And then they have their best line of dialogue, where he's just like, kid, you got heart. Where are you from? He says, Queens.
Yeah.
And then Cap says, Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Oh.
And runs off.
Yeah.
And,
you know
and
what?
now they're best friends.
I love American spirit like that, and that is awesome. I love that. That's such a good moment.
I like it too.
Yeah, I almost want to see the Spider-Man Cap universe where they fight crime together. That would just be fun to watch.
I remember there was a comic that I wanted to read where it was Captain America training Spider-Man.
Oh.
And I think that would have been so cool to see.
Well, you know how Tony's a mentor for Spider-Man? It would be great if there was almost like in one of the Spider-Man films, for a little while there, Cap becomes his mentor. It'd be interesting to see the different like leadership abilities from both of them going into Spider-Man, and him becoming like the best of both of them. It would be really, really cool.
Yeah, true.
There's another good team off where we have Ant-Man, the other bug, fighting Iron Man. And it's funny where he goes inside Iron Man's suit.
Yep.
Because Iron Man starts having a weapon malfunction. He goes, what? Suddenly Ant-Man's like, oh, you gotta get that fixed. Who is talking?
We don't talk much anymore, but
it's your conscience. But Iron Man is a lot better than Falcon. He's able to do a fire suppression throughout his suit and shoot Ant-Man out pretty quick. So that works well.
What was I gonna say? Oh, right, because when you said Ant-Man, I was thinking about how he was on Hawkeye. Like just before that, he was on Hawkeye's Arrow.
Arrow, yeah. That's a good one. Oh, yeah, all right, Arrow guy.
I'm good, Arrow guy. Let's go. Let's do this.
Yeah, that's great. So then we get to the moment where essentially, of course, one side has to lose. So it's the Captain America side. They don't actually say they're losing. What they say is, this is not our fight. This is not the real fight. The real fight is now over in, is it Siberia? Or Syria? Or
Siberia. It's Siberia. It's definitely not Syria. It's Siberia, yeah.
And so they have to get to the Quinjet. So now Cap and Bucky are going to make a run for it, but they need a distraction. So they need something big. And that's such good dialogue. Because it's, again, we need something big. It's not we need a distraction. We need something big. And of course, Ant-Man's going to say, I got something kind of big. And small thing, but I got to say, he sounds like Goku when he's saying this line. It's hilarious when he's like, I got something kind of big, but I can't hold it very long.
Spirit ball?
Yeah, exactly. But I can't hold it very long. And if I rip myself in half, it's just like, oh my god. I was like, he just sounds so much like Goku. Not that I want to see Paul Rudd play Goku, but he had the
now I do. I would rather see him than
Justin
whoever.
Chatwin.
Is that who played the first one?
Yeah.
Or the only live action one? Yeah,
You
I'd
know
rather
what?
see Paul Rudd.
You know what? I can kind of see it. If Paul Rudd got super jacked, I could kind of see him. He's got the cadence of a Goku.
Yeah. He does have the cadence, yeah.
Yeah, it's weird. Anyways, that line specifically, just look at I got something kind of big, just listen to that line and picture Goku in your mind. It sounds just like him. It's so weird. Anyway, so he obviously turns into Giant Man and kind of just goes big.
Giant Man.
Ooh, well done.
Thank you.
And then we proceed to have just a bunch of awesome action sequences here, where you got Spider-Man and War Machine, and Spider-Man's like on him with the web and stuff like that.
Yeah. So okay, and I wanted to mention that in this whole airplane sequence, and I was mentioning before, like a lot of those cheesy lines, and they're not necessarily all cheesy, but they're just kind of like lines that they're meant to be comedic, right? So like as soon as he goes big, he's laughing about the fact that it happened, and then he's like Santa Claus or something, and then and then War Machine's like all like, oh, okay, Tiny Guy's big now, he's big now, it's just like, the delivery of these lines, they're meant to be comedic in the midst of like chaos, but at the same time it's chaos between like it's between a whole family, so they're not like actually against each other like down to the core, right? They're just trying to do what each other thinks is right. And then just shortly after that, Iron Man realizes and just give me back my roadie.
Yeah, give me back my roadie. Yeah, I'll agree with you. These lines, the lines I laugh at are not these ones. And that doesn't mean that they're bad. It's just like when I laugh, it's because it was like it was a funny, well done line. But there's the lines that I just kind of let slide, that they didn't track the laughter out of me, but they just like I kind of let them go. But
I also think these are meant to be just like give a little break. Otherwise, you're watching like a 40-minute fight, which like on paper it sounds nice, like, oh, we get to see like 40 minutes of action, but at the same time it's tiring. Just to sit and watch it, like you kind of.
It's also a lot of CGI. It does get a little grating after a while. But it all culminates in eventually Cap and Bucky getting through that whole explosion thing. That Vision tries to knock down a tower, Wanda tries to hold up the tower, then you've got War Machine hitting Wanda, the tower's falling, but Cap and Bucky make it anyways. But then Black Widow is there and she's going to stop them, but no, she's actually stopping Black Panther, who suddenly somehow also made it under this rubble. And then they get away in the Quinjet. It's very crazy. And Black Panther almost gets away in the Quinjet with them, but doesn't. And as they're leaving from there, you've got Giant Man who, using the Hoth formula from Empire Strikes Back, they're able to tie up Ant-Man and make him fall down, and then he just turns small anyway, so it was almost like a waste of time. But he wouldn't have been able to hold it very long anyway, so he would have just been small over enough time anyways. But then he had a really... Sorry, go ahead.
What's with the orange slices? Did he mention that in the first Ant-Man movie?
So I didn't get this joke either, and that just kind of shows who we are, I guess, if you didn't get this. So you don't understand the joke?
No, I thought maybe it had to do with the Ant-Man movie.
No, it's a sports reference. So at the end of a soccer game, you normally have orange slices.
Oh.
So I actually, my fiance had to explain that to me, as sad as that is. But she was like, she's like, yeah, at the end of a soccer game, the soccer mom would always like hand out orange slices to all the kids. And I was like, I get it.
I
okay.
see. Okay.
Like, I was like, oh, clearly I didn't play soccer when I was a kid.
Yeah, I didn't sports. I gamed. That's what I did. Yeah.
So anyways, that's the joke. And so when the whole theater's laughing and you're not laughing, that's why. So when they're leaving,
played soccer as a kid. Everybody else in the theater except us.
Yeah, exactly. When the Quinjet is leaving and you got Bucky and Cap running away, you've got Iron Man and Rhodey chasing him. You get this devastating scene where Vision is distracted by Wanda, I think. I'm not really sure why he's distracted, but I think it's Wanda. Because they apologize to each other. And then Rhodey actually tells Vision to take out Falcon. He says a very specific thing, though. He says, like, take out his booster pack or whatever so that he can just glide down. Or something. It's very specific how he says it, so it's not going to harm him.
Yeah.
And then Vision misses. But not really, does he?
Well, no, he did. I mean, like, he was in line, but just Falcon saw it coming, so he's able to get out of the way.
Dodged.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't really know. Can you blame anybody? It's hard to blame anybody in this situation, right?
Well,
like,
no, I
can't
think
blame Falcon because he dodged a missile coming at him.
Yeah.
You can't blame Rhodey, but he did say the command, and then you can't really blame Vision because he did what Rhodey said.
Well, yeah. So I think in this situation is one of those, like what I was trying to mention before. Like it's not about pointing like the blame in the moment, but it's like what action you're going to take and what responsibility are you going to take for that, right? And like this is all the responsibility factor already because like there was action taken to get to this point. So yeah, you can't point at the people that have been kind of like strung along. It's really just like what happened to bring this all about in the first place.
And as Rhodey falls, we get the awesome theme coming back, as he's falling, and you got Tony trying to race to save him, but then the music just abruptly stops when he hits the ground, and it's a really good moment. There's actually it's kind of comedic, but it's not really comedic, is when Falcon says sorry, and Tony just hits him with a blast.
It's just,
there's actually the stunt behind that is really funny watching Guy talk about that moment. So Guy did the stunts on it, and they hit him with this force and they whip him back with these ropes. So he just has to get launched backwards. Apparently it's really painful, but it's very fun.
Oh, it must be.
So that's all real. He just gets him whipped back.
Oh, yeah, because he probably just has to get pulled like from
with a harness, right? They pull
with the harness,
just
like in the waist and the chest. You just get yanked. There must be so much whiplash to that.
Exactly. Well, they try to reduce it as much as possible because they have to do it multiple times, obviously. So
yeah.
Anyway, so that all happens, and it all culminates with Rhodey got hurt. Somebody got hurt. Oh, everybody played with sticks, and somebody got hurt.
Yeah.
So boys will be boys. Moving on, we have our scene with Zemo. Kind of calls the room service, and we get a reveal that Zemo killed somebody in the room service.
Oh, actually, that's where I end my act 2.
You know what? I probably act mine. Yeah, you know what? I ended mine there too. So that's okay. That Zemo scene is kind of stupid. So that's the end of that. Okay, so Act 2 is done. Let's move on to Act 3.
Great.
Which I named Zemo's Vengeance.
Nice. I named mine The Last Laugh. Because we get a lot of...
the Joker comes into this movie. It's a crossover event.
It's DC versus Marvel. Civil War.
In Civil War. Oh, man.
It's, so I because there are a lot of, like, one-liner retorts. And also because Stanley comes out saying Tony stank. So it's just like...
That's like my least favorite Stan Lee line out of them all. I don't like it.
It's like kind of too easy, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
In the bloopers, he says, like, Robert Stank, too. Like,
that's right. He says Robert Stank.
Yeah.
It's just, anyways, it's a funny mistake, Robert Stank. You remember that time we had to ride back from Rockaway Beach in the back of that freezer truck?
Was that the time you used our train money to buy hot dogs?
You blew $3 trying to win that stuffed bear for a redhead.
What was her name again?
Dolores. You called her Dot.
She's got to be 100 years old right now.
So are we, pal.
Man, I love that line. Like, I love that little scene. You don't get much humanization between these two characters, and that little bit of dialogue is so good because it tells you so much about them, right? Like, obviously they don't reminisce much, and Bucky's even just like, for some reason, he's still holding on to hope that this woman is still alive, even though she's most likely dead. But, But then Steve reminding him that like they're also relics. They're both relics of an old age. For some reason in my mind, this scene happened in Infinity War, and it didn't happen in Civil War. I don't know why, but I thought it did.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, but anyways, now knowing it happens here, I love this scene. I love this line. I think it's kind of the last bit of Steve and Bucky-ness that we really get. I think we get a bit of it in Infinity War, but this is like the real last bit of humanization between the two of them.
I almost don't even think that they talked. Well, I don't think they had a scene together in Infinity War.
Yeah, they might not. I'm not sure. We'll get there when we get there. But this is like the last of the last, and I just love it. Because you just think all the way back to the first Captain America movie and the two of them and their scenes in the beginning going to the Stark Expo and all that. But coming to this moment here where they're both men from the old days have traveled in time to the future, and here they are, still best friends, still on a mission together. It's just, I love it.
Yeah, you know what? I'm just thinking now, it's kind of like that almost seems like it's just the recurring thing with Captain America, that he just gets robbed of these what could have been really great moments or great relationships, because like we don't get to see him build up a lot more time and effort with Bucky after he's back. And then also we didn't get to see him have like a full-on relationship with Peggy Carter. I'm sure there would have been a lot more. The only one that he has like a strong connection with, who has a lot of screen time with, is the one he's clashing with right now in this movie, which is Iron Man.
True. So here, I don't think this act is really all that long. Tony finds evidence that Bucky was set up. He finds out that the guy that Zemo killed is the guy that was supposed to do the interrogation of Bucky in the first place.
Yeah, that's right.
And so Tony
Dr.
puts two and two together.
Played by Joe Russo, one of the directors.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you can only tell in the one scene where they show him his face like already. Oh wait, they show him like on an iPad or something.
Yeah, exactly. On a screen,
but otherwise, there's a deleted scene where he actually shows where they actually see Zemo meeting up with Dr. Broussard at the airport, and you can clearly see that it's Joe Russo.
All right.
So now Joe Russo has played multiple MCU characters.
Lucky
guy.
Yeah, so Tony then pretty much puts two and two together and realizes that Bucky is actually innocent, and Tony wants to go and now talk to the rest of the Avengers to go and see if he can find out where they are. So he goes to a place called the Raft, which is like an underwater prison. CIA prison, I guess. Everything's the CIA in this movie, so
I don't know if this is CIA, because it has to do with Ross. Secretary Ross.
Yeah, I guess so, yeah.
So it's probably more government related, but it could be CIA. I don't know how that all works.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Well, Ross here, this is what I mentioned earlier. Ross is clearly now kind of the villain to the storyline in the moment where he's mad at Tony even, and he's saying that Tony should be in this prison with the rest of them, kind of thing. It's lines like that to make you sympathize with Tony more. So this is making Ross the Emperor and Tony the Darth Vader of the storyline. So you can empathize with Darth Vader, but you can't empathize with the Emperor, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So then, as Tony goes into this place, he's now... I like half of these lines and don't like the other half, but he talks to the Avengers here. I don't like Hawkeye's "the futurist is here" line. I don't know what it is, but him clapping and going, "The futurist is here, ladies and gentlemen." For some reason, it just sounds like it worked on paper and doesn't work on screen. Like, it doesn't sound like Hawkeye. It sounds like somebody thought this would sound cool, but it doesn't sound cool.
I did find it a little bit of a weird line and kind of weird interaction.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I better not walk away from him or else he'll break your back. And the way he says it, you're like, okay, like I get it. But you could have just said something so much more human like Hawkeye does that also says the same message, you know?
Yeah. And the scene almost makes Hawkeye seem like a drunk.
Yeah.
Like, just the way he's delivering the lines. And
he's just standing on a soapbox and just saying the thing, and I get it, but it just doesn't sound like Hawkeye. It just sounds like what the plot needs in the moment. Yeah. And then of course you get like your really quick Scott Lang line of like Howard's what's his name? Not Howard.
Hank Pym?
Hey, Hank Pym always said, "Don't trust a star."
Yeah.
Like, just quick lines. Okay, sure. There's Scott Lang's.
Who are you?
Yeah, exactly.
Come on, man.
Who are you? Yeah, he pretty much pulls a Star-Lord there, doesn't he? Come on, man. Star-Lord. Yeah. Anyways, I do like the interaction though between Tony and Falcon. I really like the moment where Tony says like, "You don't really know me. I don't really know you. You don't have to tell me." But then Falcon goes like, "No, it's okay. I'll tell you." I love that because that sounds so real. Like that actually sounds like those two actors almost talking to each other, because it's like the two of them don't ever really get dialogue together. So it's a really good moment where he's like, I need information and you need to tell me something really personal, but we don't know each other all that well. If you don't want to, you really don't have to. And he's going, no, I get it. I'll do it. And you're like, oh, geez, okay, cool, yeah.
I almost find that there was kind of like a notion of Captain America in Falcon, like as Falcon is saying this, because the way that he's allowing this conversation to go on, like knowing that Tony really isn't the bad guy, but knowing that he has the potential to do the right thing and to help out the whole situation. I'll
concede you that point.
Okay. in our ongoing bout of
Who deserves the shield
Who deserves
more,
the
yeah.
shield? Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Maybe that's what the Bucky and Falcon show is going to be all about. Who deserves the shield more? Maybe the whole show they're going to be fighting over the shield.
You know, I think I read something about how Bucky was holding the shield first in the series, but it might have just been like a tease.
There's
I
hope
don't
for
know.
us.
Yeah, we'll
Us
have to
Bucky
see what
defenders
happens.
out there. There's hope for us.
It'll be a while though, but we'll see.
For sure. So anyways, Tony gets the information that he needs. He tells General Ross some weird stuff. He's acting very strange, and then in the blink of an eye, he turns into the actual Tony Stark in this scene. As the door is shutting, Tony's like laughing as he made a joke to Ross, and then his face goes straight solemn instantly, and the door shuts.
Yeah.
And like he just looks serious, and the door shuts on his face.
Yeah.
In that moment is the transition from whatever the Civil War Tony Stark is into the actual Tony Stark. We see the real one right there. He's ready for his mission, and he seems clear-headed, and he's ready to just go forward and help his friend.
Yeah. And then just after that, we see Black Panther following him in stealth, I guess.
Oh yeah, I know. He's
And-
like driving the Batmobile or something to go and like. It's so weird.
You know what? Actually, when I saw it, I thought like, wait, is that the Blackbird from X-Men? It just has that like kind of
Oh,
pointy,
yeah.
pointy front beak shape.
You're right. Yeah.
I'm sure it's not, but
So, yeah, after that, we get into the Zemo is heading to the facility in Siberia. He types that code into the machine, which actually we saw at the beginning of the movie as well, with the soldiers typing the code into the machine. I like the audio for some reason when he types in the buttons. It's like it sounds really good.
I don't even remember him pushing buttons.
Some ASMR artist should really like just take that scene and break it down, like ASMR 1 hour of Zemo typing in buttons on the machine. But it's really good. I like the crinkling of the snow as he like pushes in these like really old, stale computer buttons. Buttons get me. I don't know what it is. I like buttons.
Sometimes they're just buttons are satisfying.
I like pushing buttons. I work in IT, so of course I like pushing buttons. Anyway, so Zemo goes to the facility. Then quickly behind him is Cap and Cap and Bucky, and they go over the scene that we just did in the beginning. They get inside. They start going into stealth mission mode pretty much right away. I like to see this kind of mode where Bucky's got his machine gun and he got Cap with his shield out front. It reminds me of like the first Captain America, the first Avenger. Some cool moments there. They're kind of doing their hallway stealth modes and stuff. It must have been fun for those actors to go back to that kind of stage, doing that kind of reconnaissance mission. Is that what it's called? Stealth mission?
Reconnaissance. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we get a really cool shot when they hear the sound of Iron Man coming through the door. They turn around and it's Bucky overhead with the gun and Captain America with the shield.
Love
Oh,
that,
that's such a cool shot.
And I love how it's Iron Man too. Like the doors are opening, you don't even know who it's going to be. It's just and it's just Iron Man. You're like, oh, geez, okay.
Yeah, it's a nice little reveal to see those colors and like the reflection of his material coming through the door.
Yeah.
And this dark kind of like the dark. It's a dark kind of aspect for this last scene, right? So
yes.
he's like kind of like there's a little bit of light coming from him.
I like the reconciliation between Steve and Tony. Neither of them say they're wrong. Neither of them really apologize, but both of them know each other enough to understand what just happened. Like
Didn't Tony say that he was wrong? Like he realized, or he could be.
No,
wrong.
he said. I'm pretty sure the line of dialogue is he says, "You might not be wrong." Like yeah, exactly.
Oh, I see.
Exactly. It's something weird like that. Like,
That's a kind of a Tony line.
yeah, it's something that's in like, you might not be totally wrong or something like that, the way he says it, right? And then Steve takes that as in like the power, like Tony just gave up a little bit of power, right?
Yeah.
So instead of Steve taking it right away, he then pretty much like offers for Tony to help them, you know, instead of that. So he does the leadership thing and Tony takes it, right? We're going to work on this together. But instead of Tony just accepting it, he makes fun of Bucky. He says, like Manchurian Candidate, stand down, you're killing me here. But it's interesting because again, Steve and Tony know each other so well that the power struggle that happened instantly dissipates, and they're now on the same side. It's really well done in like 3 lines of dialogue. It's really cool.
Yeah, and I think what solidifies them being on the same side is also how he says he doesn't want Ross to know that he's there.
Exactly.
So he's working under the radar, which is exactly what
Back
Captain.
to Tony Stark, the way he normally operates.
Yeah.
So they go inside the facility. They're all ready to fight the Winter Soldiers. I keep thinking this too. It's really interesting. These characters really think they're about to fight like 5 Winter Soldiers. So that must be really rough. They're ready for like an intense brawl where they probably are just going to die.
Yeah.
If you had to fight 5 Buckies, that would be hard for all of them.
Yeah.
So I don't know what's going through their minds at this moment, but they're probably just like, this is going to be an intense battle. And then it's not a battle, which is great. All 5 of the Winter Soldiers are already executed. And you've got Zemo telling them, like, I don't want more of you freaks, pretty much. And it's great because you realize that Zemo's not a bad guy in a weird way. He's actually kind of like a regular dude.
Yeah.
He's actually a really interesting psychological villain in the story where just as much as Civil War is a very psychological, or not psychological, but like philosophical kind of film where you have to wonder what side you would be on. Zemo is also a character that you would wonder, could you be driven to that same kind of vengeance that Zemo has, right?
Yeah, just as an average civilian who is looking to figure out like a way to justify what's been happening. And I thought that he was a really cool villain mainly because he's meant to be kind of an ordinary person. So he doesn't have any extra powers or whatever. He just happens to be an ordinary person who is also, I think he was in the military or whatever, like Sekovian military. So he has some like enough knowledge and experience to be able to figure out like what is it that, what can he find out, and where can he gather enough resources so that he can just have the Avengers do their own work, or do his work in taking themselves down.
Exactly.
Right. So it's not about like Ultron trying to gather all the resources and destroy everything. It's not about Thanos trying to destroy everything. It's about him trying to find this crack and then exploit it.
Yeah, their vulnerabilities and using it against them. And it works very, very well. I really like the line. He doesn't get much dialogue with Captain America, but Captain America instantly tries to understand him. And he says, like, you're Sekovian. Is that what this is about? And then he pretty much says, like, yes, I'm Sekovian. And yes, my family died due to what you did. But that's not what this is about. It's really interesting because he instantly takes the power back in that conversation. And then he takes it further and he insults Captain America by talking about his eye color. He says, like, everybody says that you got blue eyes, but I noticed there's a bit of green in your eyes. And it's so great because he's talking about the impurities of Captain America, but also the impurities of the Avengers and how there's the vulnerability there. Like, everybody says you're pure. Everybody says you're perfect. But I see that you're not perfect. And then he proves it by showing the video footage, which is just, it's perfect. I love it. How do you defeat a villain who is at the end of his rope, right? Like, it's very interesting. Like, Zemo is on a suicidal mission here. He wants to accomplish this task and then kill himself, essentially. So how do you defeat that kind of a villain? There's no way to. And it's very interesting here where now Tony gets to see this scene for the first time play out. And then we as the audience actually get to understand what's really happening here for the first time. And that is that the Winter Soldier has killed Tony's parents. And that apparently, out of some crazy twist, apparently Captain America knew of this.
So I think I was trying to piece together how this worked. So I don't know if he actually knew for sure that it was Bucky. I think he had an idea of some things that happened, and I think I read that when he was talking to Zola, that there was they were flashing a bunch of newspaper articles in front of him, and maybe that's when he got some sort of hint of it, because he did say to Tony like he didn't know it was him.
True.
Yeah. So
I don't know exactly. Everybody kind of knows their own thing. Like, Bucky knows he killed these people. He doesn't know they're Tony's parents. What is it? Cap knows that Tony's parents died from an assassination from a Hydra thing, but he didn't want to tell Tony that because I don't know exactly know why he didn't think it should come from him.
He wrote in a letter later on. He thought he was sparing him, but he was actually sparing himself.
And Tony knew that his parents died. So it's like they all know like a weird bit of this puzzle. Yeah. But in this video footage, all three of them see it all together. And it's the evidence. And it's obviously not good to see. You see him straight up murder Tony's parents.
Yeah. Which was pretty brutal.
It is brutal.
Just the way that he did it. Wow.
But he's also brainwashed. So it then gets to the philosophical nature of this whole movie. Like, if he was brainwashed, can you blame the man for doing it? Well, Tony obviously gets emotionally driven by this and starts fighting. And then you get just such an epic fight scene here. I really like this fight scene because it's very Star Wars to me. It's all fighting with emotion. So it's almost like watching these guys fight with lightsabers all over again, but they don't have lightsabers. They have the powers that we know them to have. Yeah. But just watching all three of them fight together, it's like watching Darth Maul and Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan Kenobi all over again. It's so fun. I love it.
Oh, that's such a good that's a good resemblance of like similarity for Star Wars. Just those three. Wow. Yeah.
The lines are good. Like, did you know? And then he's just like, he doesn't know what to say. And then Tony instantly takes that as like a he knew kind of thing. And then he goes like, yes. He just says yes. Like, he doesn't know what else to say. It's too much to get into it now. He just says yes. Tony instantly whips on the helmet, hits him in the face, and they get into the fight. Lots of fighting back and forth. But the best part is when we really get into the fighting down below and they get into that weird little like snowy kind of area at the bottom of the silo. Yeah.
So this is where I saw a lot of GIFs and memes coming out. When this is the trailer too, right? When he's we see Iron Man just getting beat down by both of them. Yeah. And then I remember when I feel like we were at BCIT at the time.
We were,
or something. Yeah, and then there were all those GIFs of like Iron Man is you, and then Bucky is like homework. Yeah. And Captain America is exams or something, and you're just getting beat down by both. Yeah.
I really like the moment where Bucky tries to grab the arc reactor out of Tony's suit, and he gets his arm blown right off. Oh, man. It's so cool. The cannon just goes boom, just hits him. And you feel the power in that. You instantly know something bad happened, and then as soon as you see his arm is gone, you're like, oh, jeez, like it actually ripped it out. But after that, Tony's like pretty compromised this moment. His suit is pretty intensely damaged, I guess. And him and Cap have their fight, but it does that perfect slow-mo shot where it's Tony and Cap, and Tony's lasering Cap's shield.
Right in the shield,
That's
You
so
see on
good.
Tony's side that it's like all like light, and then on the other side of the shield is almost turning into like vapor.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really cool scene.
Just beautiful shots, and again, it's emotionally driven combat.
Yeah.
So it doesn't necessarily make as much sense, but it's fun because it's telling a story, and you're getting that story as you watch it. And that's why it's so good. That's why I'm not talking about the parts where they're jumping up the top of the silo and trying to escape the silo, because that's more just combat, and it's like physical directional combat. But the emotional stuff is what gets you. So the emotional stuff is down below when they're fighting. So that's why I'm talking more about that. And when Cap and Tony start fighting, we even get the amazing Cap line where he gets beaten up by Tony after Tony analyzes his battle behavior and then starts fighting him. Then you get the Cap line where he gets up, I can do this all day. I love that. I wish... I still am so mad we didn't get that in Endgame, because Cap needs to say this line. This is like not only a Captain America line, this is a MCU
Well,
line.
we kind of did get it in Endgame. It just wasn't
No,
the
we
version
didn't.
that...
Not the way we should have.
Okay.
He needed to fight Thanos and have that line. But regardless, even though he didn't say that, this is the last Captain America movie, and it does hark back to the original movie, and I love that we get that. It's also insane to think that the person he's saying it to, like you mentioned earlier, is also his friend.
Yeah.
So when we get to that point, we realize how far he's been driven to be saying that he can do this all day when he's fighting his friend. It's just nuts.
Yeah, and that it's just another hint for showing how much resilience Captain America has throughout everything, and that's why he's somebody we can always rely on to never waver.
Yeah.
And we can rely on him to say lines like that and know that he's going to get back up. Just no matter
Exactly.
how hard he's been beaten down, he's going to get back up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We did get a great moment where Bucky used the shield again in this movie. So he used Cap's shield to fight Iron Man. So Captain lost his shield originally, and Bucky grabs his shield and starts hitting Iron Man with it a little bit earlier on. So just to reinforce that, Bucky's rightfully supposed to own the shield.
You know what? There's a deleted scene where he uses the shield in it. I think he throws it. Either he throws it to hit somebody and get it back to Cap, or he throws it back to Cap.
Oh, I haven't seen this.
And then he just says, I gotta get me one of those.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but it's a deleted
man.
scene. It's in the Disney Plus stuff, so you can look it
I
up.
gotta watch that, because he doesn't get enough like comedic lines like that. So I really
No,
would
not
love
at
to see
all.
that.
Yeah.
I really think that they should make versions of all these movies where they include the deleted scenes. I think they should, because they say extended scenes sometimes.
Yeah.
And I feel like they should just throw it in, like make an extended version of the whole film.
I agree.
While this happens, we start to realize that Zemo, I don't know if it was fully said yet or not, but he's listening to the voicemail of his family, and you start to realize that voicemail was a voicemail of the past.
Yeah.
And he deletes the voicemail. And I love how they never actually tell you this, but you as an audience member understand it. It's very well done.
Yeah, because we had to hear it a couple times and just had to see him just really
It
hunker
actually
down
only
to
plays
listen.
twice. In the whole movie, it only plays twice, but enough for you to understand what's going on there. And this is like, I won't say it's a trope, but it's a device that's been used in movies and TV shows before, where somebody listens to a voicemail of somebody who's dead, and they can't delete the voicemail because they can't let go of that person. It's a really easy way to tell that about a character in TV shows and movies. But this movie does it in such a way where like it's not banging you over the head with it. It's just there in the background, and if you notice it, it ends up making Zemo seem like a much more interesting character.
Yeah.
So he goes to kill himself, and again, I said, how do you stop a villain who has nothing else? The only way, and I love this, is he can't kill himself.
Yeah,
When Black Panther
you
says,
rob him of that opportunity.
when he says you can't stop the dead, or you can't. He says something like you can't something the dead.
Oh, if I can look it up quick. Oh, where is it?
You can't something the dead, and you can't silence the dead, or something like that. And Black Panther says, but the living is not done with you yet.
Yeah.
And stops him. It's just a good exchange. It's just, again, it's well written. Oh, here it is. Sorry, I'm watching it in the background here.
Yeah, me too. I'm trying to find it.
Oh, justice will be done upon you. Tell that to the dead. And then he stops him. Tell it to the dead, and then Black Panther stops him. The living are not done with you yet. Again, Black Panther's got great lines in this movie. So just well done.
Vengeance has consumed you.
Vengeance, I will not let it is consuming them. I will not let it consume me. Isn't that crazy? It's like past, present, future as well. Like, vengeance has consumed you. It's consuming them. I will not let it consume me.
Yeah.
That's like
that's such a good
really
point.
Well, yeah, it's stuff like that I just like. I'll watch this movie. Oh, and by the way, I've seen this movie 3 times now, ready for this viewing. That wasn't intentional. It just happened. So
Yeah.
I watched it 3 times in the last 2 days to get ready for this. So
Nice. Well, it's worth the watch. I'd say for sure.
This is now that we're at the end. I guess we can talk about this, but it's there's not too much more to go over except for Steve sent his letter to Tony, who's now staying at the Avengers HQ. And Steve says,
actually, we should. I feel like just before doing that, just to finish off that fight scene.
Oh, sorry.
Because we.
Oh, the shield.
Well, yeah, there's the shield thing. I was also gonna say, like, just looking at Iron Man's face at Tony's face just after he gets the shield in his arc reactor and the suit doesn't work anymore.
Yeah.
Like, after that kind of fight, you'd expect them to look just like so exhausted, so tired. Which I think you do get a little bit more from Cap, but then from Tony, it's just still more anger than it is exhaustion.
Yeah.
Like there's just so much pain in his face,
just
from the fact of like what they had to go through.
It's very emotionally driven. Yeah.
Yeah, very emotionally driven. And then so Cap starts walking away with Bucky, and then Tony starts saying something like, "You don't deserve that shield. My dad made it.
Made you a shield." Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, and then he just drops it, and then we have that short pause shot of the shield just laying on the ground with the Black Panther scratches on it.
Yeah.
And it's, oh man, like what a way to finish off that scene.
Yeah.
Just like dropping the shield, like it's almost like like that. It seems to me like it's supposed to symbolize something, that he's not just dropping a shield, but he's dropping he's letting go of something that is supposed to have value to him. So is that supposed to be like, is this a new layer of Cap that we're seeing now, that we're going to be going into visiting later on in Infinity War or other movies, or is this kind of just is it just meant to be something just on its own, like he's just doing it because he's over it, like I think there are some things there that the dropping of the shield could mean, but are not quite answered. But I'd be really curious to know like what the writers or directors had intended for that shot, because I find it's so powerful.
I think that the symbol of the shield is his perfection that Zemo was getting at. The symbol of the shield is him working for America. He's America's man. When he drops the shield, it's him letting go of that responsibility, I guess, and it's him saying that he's working for himself now, doing what he thinks is right, and just him, and not what somebody tells him. Maybe the scratch on the shield could be the imperfection in what his shield was. The representation of his perfection was the shield, and having the scratch mark on it could be saying that's like having the green in his blue eyes, like there's his imperfection. Maybe I don't know. I'm just making that up, but I mean it could be.
Yeah, very well could be.
I do like this Avengers HQ scene at the end, just because you get a really quick moments of Tony talking to Rhodey. You really humanize Tony and Rhodey in that moment, which is good. I don't like the Stan Lee cameo all that much. Probably my least favorite one, but I do like Tony just being back at Avengers HQ, and it kind of replaces Steve with Tony, which is really nice. It's an interesting, like, Tony's now the leader of Avengers HQ instead of Steve at the beginning. And then Steve actually brings this up in the letter. He says, like, I'm glad you're back at Avengers HQ. It's like, you need to be around these people. You need to have people around you in this moments, because you are quite emotionally vulnerable. And again, only Steve knows that. Only Steve knows that Tony's in that kind of state, really. It's just, I don't know. It's something good about that whole last thing. They seem like better friends after all of this.
Oh yeah, for sure. After going through something like that, like not just the physical aspect of it, but I mean the physical fight is representing their emotional battle, really. Does he say that he's glad he's back at the HQ at Avengers?
Yeah, I think it's like one of the first lines he says.
Okay.
That, like, I'm glad to see you back at the HQ or something. I can't remember what it was. Or I'm glad you've come back.
Oh, I see. I'm glad you're back at the compound. Okay.
Got it. And then we get Cap at the very end. I don't know why the scene is way too quick, but Cap coming up to see his team. He walks out of the darkness, and I feel like it cuts away like a second too soon. It needed to pause.
I agree, actually.
It needed to pause on him being there and just like crack a small smile or
just
something.
a little bit.
But it's just like they don't give you a beat. They have him walk up, and I think he stops in frame, and it cuts right away. And it just just one more beat, it would have been better.
Yeah, but, I agree.
But I do like that he's there for his team. It again shows that Cap's not like in hiding now. He's not gonna grow a beard or anything. No, but
he's also not wearing his suit. So I feel like that's something just to know.
He's a civvy now. He's a civilian.
Yeah, exactly. Like he ended up getting into the or whatever that prison place is, taking out the security, breaking out his lads, his team, not in his suit. So he's kind of he's sort of like fully embracing this whole vigilante kind of thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
So after that is done, we got 2 after credits scenes. We've got Wakanda Forever, which is our first glimpse of Wakanda, and it seems like Bucky's going to be the new, what do they call him? The White Panther or something? They call him like, they have a nickname for him.
Do they?
Yeah, I can't. They eventually have a nickname for him. I can't remember what they name him. Like, I want to say White Mamba or like White Panther.
It's not like
something
White
that.
Wolf or something, right?
It might be the White Wolf. I'm not sure.
They refer to him like that in this scene?
No, I think it's actually the Black Panther or Infinity War where they refer to him as that.
But
that's when he starts to grow as a nickname because he's in Wakanda.
Oh, I see. Okay.
But anyways, they keep him there, and he goes under the Han Solo kryptonite kind of thing, or cryogen thing. He goes under.
The carbonite?
Carbonite, that's the one.
Yeah.
And he goes under, and Steve thinks the Black Panther, which is really great because the Black Panther again did really nothing wrong and actually was probably the most mature out of everybody in the whole film. He ended up learning his lesson through the film before he did something he would regret.
Mm-hmm.
And
didn't he say something
he
like,
decided to help everyone? So
yeah, like he said, what was it? Somebody went through the same problems and he didn't, like, I think he was referring to his father, right? Or
possibly, I'm not sure.
If I can
don't
help.
really remember what he says that.
Okay, so I think your friend and my father, they were both victims, and then
I see.
yeah, if I can help one of them find peace.
Sure,
So like
right, you're right, yeah.
Yeah, so that's what I thought was really cool. Like like you said, he's already kind of he had like a story arc already in his very few scenes. Was able to figure out. It's almost like this is the glimpse of what you see on the other side of when you take certain actions, like what responsibilities do you have to, what are you responsible for after that? But for Black Panther, he is the image of the responsibilities that you don't have to take up when you've taken some sort of action.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And also, he can't take the actions of the past with his father, but he can take the actions of this one thing. It doesn't necessarily have to do with him. So he decides to reconcile with this because it is here and now, which is, again, something that I think in the philosophical world is something people need to remember. Instead of dwelling on the past or regrets of the past decisions, focus on the decisions that are here in the now and make up for them now. Mm-hmm. So I think it's kind of interesting, but yeah. So that's Black Panther with that. And then in a much more philosophical and deep scene, we get Spider-Man. It is funny that the last two scenes are Black Panther and Spider-Man, the two characters that were introduced in this film. Yeah. But so we get Spider-Man with his spider radar thing on his
I assume it has to do with the suit that Tony's gonna give him. Like
some kind of like, I don't even know if they really go into this thing in his movie. I don't think they do, but it's just kind of like a spider gadget that he can have. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, but it just shows on the HUD like something's blinking and there's some other icons on it, which is what I thought. Like,
it's like email. You can probably text.
They're different. Games. Yeah, just like ways to communicate with Tony.
Yeah. Spider-Man will return.
Yes, that's right. He will have a home.
I feel like they should have done Spider-Man and Black Panther will return, but they just say Spider-Man will return. But they know they've got their biggest IP right there. So
yeah, no, that's true.
And that's the end.
That is the end. That's right.
All right. Wow. So that is all of Civil War. That's a long one. This is probably going to be our longest, I bet, out of all of them, just because it's one of my favorites. Infinity War and
Endgame, I think, are going to be long ones too. But
that's true. That's true. But they deserve to be long.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyways, that was good. I really like this film. I don't have much more to say because we just broke it all down. But I liked this film, and as negative as I am about a lot of Marvel films, I can't be all that negative about this one because it is just really well done. And when it shocks me or surprises me, and I find myself constantly going like, God, that's genius, then I can't fault it because it's unfortunately probably some of the best Marvel I'll ever see. Mm-hmm. So because a lot of it can go downhill from here. It doesn't always, but it can. And, it's just a great movie.
It's definitely one of my top 3.
Yep.
So I mean, I can't not enjoy it for all that it gives us in so many different aspects. Like I don't really care that it's a Captain America movie and yet we get so much of the Avengers and other characters, because to me like the label is not something that's supposed to define the whole thing to me exactly. Mm-hmm. Like sure, the Civil War, that's the main conflict, but what is Civil War without having a whole bunch of the characters to be a part of it and to have conflicting ideas? But I just overall like it's really enjoyable for me to see just putting all the characters together, but also having it in a very fun way. Like a lot of the conflict is just it's all internal, so we don't necessarily have to worry so much about like the main antagonist, which is Zemo. I mean, we do to an extent, but a lot of the thrill we get isn't strictly from Zemo directly. It's all indirect.
Right.
So it's just overall it's such a fun movie to watch, and I normally don't. Okay, I would see this as kind of one of those cliche things that it's sort of like, what's the next logical thing we can do with a team if we've already taken off, like we've taken on a couple big bad guys. Like, how else do we show that this team has to be torn down or get beat down, rather like without going from the inside? So I find like it's kind of like a cliche move, but I just feel like it was done so well that I didn't care that it was cliche at all. It just it's overall it's a really fun movie, a cliche concept that was just done too well to be considered as like in a negative light. So yeah, just happy with how it was done.
I agree.
Yeah. Cool.
Here's a hard question. What was your worst character in this film?
I
know mine. I was just curious if you're going to end up saying the same one.
Well, I do want to say Tony.
That's not mine.
Okay. It's hard for me to pick a worst character. I would have a toss up between Vision and Tony, but I'd want to say Tony only because I did find that there were a lot of scenes where, or a lot of the time with him on screen, it seemed like, okay, he would be like this, but I feel like there would be a little bit more of a build up, or he would show more of a reason. So I found
it's almost where the movie was a little unfair with Tony.
Yeah, like some things weren't justified completely, or as well as I thought they should have been for Tony.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my least favorite, it's funny how you say it. I match everything you're saying there. But my least favorite was Vision. Funny enough. So that was my least favorite. And again, it's not even necessarily Vision's fault. It's just we don't get... Oh, God, that's not true. They do try to humanize Vision, but for some reason, he ends up coming off as a character that's only causing annoyance in this film, rather than something to help. That being said, he's got a lot of lines where he's trying to justify his character. But I don't know what it is, but he just doesn't seem like he's there to help people, and it comes off as annoying to me. So I find Vision a little bit grating watching this film. Mm-hmm. But he's not bad. It's just out of all the great people in this movie, he comes off as probably the most annoying.
Yeah, I can see that. And then they also recognize that he's flawed, right?
Yes, for sure.
He says, I was distracted. And then
I didn't think it happened.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't either. So, yeah.
Okay, so what was your best character?
Oh, boy. I don't know. Oh, that's so difficult. Who is the best character? Well, I really like Zemo.
Yeah, me
too. Sorry, excuse me. Jeez. Oh, I really can't. It's so hard to pick one out, but I feel like Zemo was... I liked all the scenes of him in it. I like him as a villain. Right. I like his structure. I don't know. I might. Oh, do I go? No, I don't know. Okay, let's just say Zemo. And I'd have to take way more time to think about it. But I'm just gonna Zemo for now.
All right. Well, I like Zemo a lot too. I also really like Captain America, and I would probably normally give it to him, but just because this guy shocked me so much more in this movie, I'm oddly gonna give it to Black Panther.
I was thinking Black Panther was sort of my second. Yeah.
It's not that he's necessarily the best character in the film. I know I'm kind of changing what the question is, but it's just that I really enjoyed this time watching him. It shocked me how much I enjoyed watching him, and I realized that he doesn't have a bad line this whole movie. Mm-hmm. Like, every line is great. It's not only, like we said, not only driving the plot of the movie or talking about the movie, it's just, I could break down probably all of his lines in a weird way where he's talking about really powerful stuff. And the other thing, too, about his lines is the way he says his lines. Mm-hmm. Yeah. The way they're written are very mature sounding. And I don't feel like he does that in his own movie very much. I could be wrong, but I feel like his lines are not like that in his movie.
Yeah, I know. I
but
do
in
agree.
This movie, they're deliberately mature and thought out.
Yeah, well, he has a very strong... Yeah, he has a very strong conviction in this movie. And I think mostly... Well, it's all driven by the fact that his dad died. But I think because of that, he gets that chance to step up. But I think in a lot of ways we get to see him, like, he kind of rises to that king label pretty quickly.
Yes.
Like, it's abrupt, but it's also quick.
What's that line? I forget the line where he's like, so tell me, as king and as
a warrior.
As king and as a warrior. Like,
how long do you think you can keep him safe from me or something?
Yeah, how long can you hide him from me? Oh. It's like, man.
Yeah, no, he is...
This guy's, like, slamming down some crazy lines here.
Exactly. He's so badass. Like, he's so cool. Like, with and without the suit, he is just such a cool character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, well done on Black Panther. They sold me on him. And I'll say that he's best in this because of his lines.
Nice. Cool.
Okay, that's good. Should we do this one? I think it's more the obvious one to go with.
Sure. How about you answer it first this time?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
Okay, so the question is, how does this movie rate as a piece of a bigger picture, like how comic books are pieces of arcs? And I think this is really the epitome of this question. We've gone into this with Avengers a little bit, how it's really like the middle kind of ground. Mm-hmm. This movie, again, is like the replacement of Avengers 2. This is a movie that takes place in the middle of something. There's a lot to happen before it, and there's a lot that's going to happen after it, but it's so pivotal in telling you why the characters do what they do. It's not what they're doing, it's why. And that's what the whole theme of this movie is why, as opposed to Avengers, which is what. And that is the big reason why this movie is so much better. It's all about the dialogue between the characters and how they differ as characters. Not that they're so cohesive that they can make a bunch of jokes together and be a cool, fun, happy team, but no, it's about what makes them different and how that can cause conflict. It's really interesting, and I love that. So because of that, we've got all these facets that drive into this film from other storylines, and then facets that come out of this film to drive more storylines, just like comic books do, and it does it so well. And just to put a pin at the end of that, what makes it even more like comic books is how Black Panther and Spider-Man seem to come out of nowhere into this film.
Yeah.
They just kind of like bleed right into the storyline so well that you don't even notice that there's just extra people coming in, right? It's just so great. It's awesome.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I don't think I could say much more. I think you pretty much said it all. Like I kind of I see this movie as it's sort of like if you think of a tree that is like, trees are what, like they can be like centuries old. So think of a tree that is at its halfway point, where it's still like its main trunk is still growing, but then it's splitting off and starting to build like tons of different branches that just happen at different points. And I feel like those branches are the new questions that we get from this movie, like what are the characters going to do next? And then also like here's the Spider-Man branch, here's the Black Panther branch,
Right.
And here's Captain America's branch that happens to be veering off in a different way now. Like what does this mean? So
from the foundations of this movie are the creation of other better movies, or you would hope at least.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's very well rooted, and now we have a lot of great things to expect. Like we've been able to it's been able to flourish up to this point where it's quite solid. It's very firm. Like we have a very strong understanding of its purpose. So like if you think about the Avengers, like we know what they stand for. If you think of each of the individual characters, we know what they stand for. But now there's all of a sudden this new element of what is next. Now that we've gotten to this point and we've answered part of the why, there's the second step, which is trying to figure out, okay, well, what is it that we can now do now that we've gotten to this point? And we have these different views now. How we can think differently. What are we going to do with it? So, if I were to read this in a comic, I would be so excited to see what happens after this.
And I'm sure it's not a coincidence. Well, it's not a coincidence, but I'm sure it's well known to people that this is based on one of the most popular MCU comic storylines, which was the Civil War. That was spanning across many different series for all the characters that all came to the culmination of the Civil War comic. So
and I think the Civil War, the portrayal in the comics was completely different from how this movie
for sure
they're
really what? the name is the only similarity really, but everything else is quite different.
Pretty much, but otherwise it's just super entertaining. It's a great take on it. Cool.
Well, I don't know how much more to say other than the last 2.5 hours of talking about this film.
Well, I'm ready to sleep.
We just gushed over this film for 2.5 hours pretty much.
That's pretty much it.
I love it though.
Boy.
Cool. Well, thank you all for staying with us and listening to this. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for listening to this podcast, and be sure to catch our next Marvel movie episode.
That one,
the next one.
Just whatever.
Which shocks me enough, but we're going to be talking about Doctor Strange next, which is crazy. So
wow, I totally forgot that.
Doctor.
Phase 3. Phase 3 just branches off into so many different movies.
It really does. Cool. Well, I'm excited to get there with you. I doubt it's going to be as long as this one, but it'll be fun to watch that one too.
Yes, it'll be. We get to see Benedict Cumberbatch, the famous photo bomber himself. That's
Dormammu.
Yeah.
Okay, great. All right, thanks for listening.
Cool. Okay. Bye everybody.
Bye.